Roman slave owner. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Cerebio. Many people felt that Levi was too radical in the conflict between him and Aulus, but no one wanted to offend Levi, as everyone could see Levi's potential. As long as nothing unexpected happened, Levi would become a powerful figure. Therefore, everyone came to greet him with a smile, without being too close or too distant. Several girls licked their sexy red lips and looked at Levi. They dared to confront the two powerful children of Capua. They were really too charming. "I'm sorry. I didn't know you had a grudge against Aulus. I'm sorry about what happened today," Tullius said apologetically. "It's nothing. The conflict between them and me would have erupted sooner or later even without you," Levi said with a smile. Sykes hesitated for a while and finally came over. He called Levi to a place where no one was around and said, "You really shouldn't offend them. They are all ruthless people. I know that they have killed several people." "I know. I will pay attention to my safety," Levi said. His predecessor was among those people. "My family has some business in Egypt and Africa. I think your sugar has great potential. Are you interested in exploring the African market with me?" Seeing Levi's frown, Sykes said quickly, "I mean, you can sell me some sugar at a low price." "I'm not trying to take your sugar formula. Selling sugar to Africa? This is certainly a good thing. Daily consumer goods like sugar need a lot of distribution. Only in this way can the market be opened up as soon as possible. I don't have the idea of exploring Africa for the time being, but if you want to buy a lot of goods, I can give you a discount. You can talk to Yulia about this." "I usually don't care about business matters," Levi said. Sykes cursed inwardly. What do you mean by not caring? Would you feel at ease if the slaves were in charge of millions of dinars? But Sykes smiled on his face. "Really? That's great. In addition, I heard that you are purchasing a lot of stone, cement and blue bricks." "That was in the past. I have acquired some workshops related to building materials," Levi said. The smile froze on Sykes's face. Levi's appetite for building materials had long been known throughout Capua. He wanted to make a fortune from it, but he didn't expect. "Really? That's it," Sykes said embarrassedly. Although he didn't achieve all his goals, he finally gained something. After talking for a while, Sykes finally left here. "I don't know when. Several actors have been dancing in the garden, and the children of the rich and powerful are enjoying the food while enjoying the singing and dancing. Among them are cakes made with white sugar and the rock sugar that Levi just brought. Many people are amazed at the deliciousness of the rock sugar. I don't know when." Gaia, who is wearing a red dress, came over. "I heard that you also made the rock sugar." "Yes. Do you like it?" Levi asked. "Of course I like it. Who doesn't like such sweet things?" "They all like it crazy." Gaia pointed at the girls and said. Some of the girls tasted the cakes, some licked the rock sugar, and laughed from time to time. "This thing will definitely sell well, but the price is too expensive." Gaia complained a little. Even though she was born in an extraordinary family, she felt that rock sugar was too expensive. "If you like it, I can give you some as your wedding gift," Levi said. "That's great. I'll go to your house to get it when I have time." Gaia licked her red lips slightly, and then looked at Levi ambiguously. Levi swallowed his saliva secretly. He remembered that this woman was famous for being open. "You are welcome at any time." After Gaia left, Levi was still thinking, if she really seduced him, would he take the bait? Or take the bait? "Do you like her?" At this time, a somewhat deep voice came from the side. Levi looked over and found that a middle-aged man with a kind face had come to his side. "No," Levi said very confidently. "No matter what kind of man, no one likes that kind of open woman. Maybe they will become, but it is basically impossible to talk about love, let alone get married. Gaia is a very skillful person." The middle-aged man thought for a while and said, "Is it scheming?" "My name is Gaius Cornelius Cerebio," the middle-aged man continued. "Cornelia seems to be a very famous clan in Rome," Levi said. "Yes, the Cornelia clan has produced many consuls," the middle-aged man said very proudly. "In fact, Sulla and Cinna both belonged to the Cornelia clan. I remember you seemed to be a lawyer. Levi thought for a while and said, I didn't expect you to have heard of my name. Cerebio said with a smile. In fact, he was a down-and-out nobleman, and his family was very poor. He was able to come to this level of banquet because he usually helped those powerful people to fight lawsuits and got some connections. In addition, because he was shameless, he was often looked down upon by those nobles. Do you know that you have offended the administrator and the governor of Campania? Cerebio said with a serious face. I know, Levi said lightly. Then do you know that they are preparing to deal with you? Cerebio suddenly whispered. What did you say? Levi said in surprise. In fact, I am definitely not the only one who knows this news here. But they will not offend the administrator and Admiral Campania for you. They do not regard you as one of their own. They are waiting for you to fight with them. If you win in the end, they will naturally accept you. If you lose, they will pounce on your body and tear you to pieces. Cerebio whispered, while looking around cautiously. Levi looked at him in shock. This guy must be lying to him. How did you know this news? Levi asked. I was helping Dio with a lawsuit recently and overheard it by accident. Cerebio whispered. Why are you helping me? Levi stared at him intently. Because I want to go into politics. I want to restore the glory of the Cerebio family. I don't want to be in such a state of decline. I happen to have something you don't have. Although my family has fallen into decline, some of my relatives still hold high positions and I have many connections. You also have something I need, and I hope you can help me. Cerebio said quietly. We can truly join forces if we unite. I can give you what you want. Levi looked at him with disdain. Rome had been built for hundreds of years, and there were too many fallen nobles. Even Caesar and Sulla were fallen nobles when they were young. He was not worthy of joining forces with the strong. Chapter 27 10,000 people. Cerebio blushed, knowing that he had underestimated Levi. He still treated him as a child. Anyway, your information is very important to me. Tell me their plan and I will give you what you want, Levi said. He was not afraid that Cerebio would hide something. Since he had said so much, he had already cut off his own retreat. Cerebio gritted his teeth and said, I think we should talk somewhere else. Levi thought for a while and said, Go to my guards to talk. Cerebio nodded, and the two separated temporarily, and then went to Levi's guards one after another. Ignoring Yulia's surprise, Levi asked them to disperse and pretend that nothing happened. In fact, I didn't hear this matter clearly, but I vaguely heard that they would start with your slaves. Cerebio said, Start with my slaves? My slaves never came out once they entered that door. How would they do it? Send someone to sneak in? Levi asked. It shouldn't be, but I can help you find out. I am familiar with many people in their mansion, Cerebio said. Levi thought for a moment and asked, Then what do you think I should do? Do you know that a big shot is coming to Capua? Cerebio said. Levi shook his head. Only then did he feel that he was really out of touch with the news. As a senator of the Roman Senate, he didn't seem to be a big shot. Lucius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, Cerebio said. In Rome, one's origin can basically be seen from a person's full name. For example, Lucius Cornelius Scipio Africanus means that he is from the Cornelia family, and Scipio Africanus means that he is from the Scipio family who conquered Carthage in the Punic War. Because Scipio the Younger conquered Carthage, he was awarded the title of Conqueror of Africa, that is, Africanus, and permanently added it to his family name. It turned out to be him, Levi said with some surprise. The Punic War was the most difficult war fought by Rome. Hannibal once dominated Rome without anyone being able to stop him. It was for this reason that the Scipio clan, which destroyed Carthage, has always had an extremely high reputation. With the glory of their ancestors, the Scipio clan would occasionally produce several Roman consuls. What is he doing here? Levi asked. He is interested in the consul next year and hopes to get the support of some wealthy families, Cerebio said. The corners of Levi's mouth curled up slightly. So that's it, you mean I want to get the support of Scipio? Levi said. Yes, I can make connections for you, but you must show greater value than the administrator and the admiral combined, Cerebio said. Levi nodded. He understood this. Isn't it just the number of Roman citizens and money? This is what he is best at. Okay, help me contact them later and tell them that I won't let him down. I will further increase my guards. I plan to increase my guards to a legion, no, to 10,000 people, and they are all Roman citizens. In addition, I am willing to subsidize him with 500,000 dinars, Levi said. Since he had offended the two military and political giants of Capua, it was time to go all out. He could not hold back. Gutta had a large number of soldiers, and 2,000 guards were not enough to make Scipio completely turn to him, so he had to widen the gap. And it was a decisive gap. As the saying goes, one force can break all laws. As long as there are enough Roman citizens in his hands, nothing can defeat Levi. Hearing this, Scipio took a breath of cold air. 10,000 people. This is really a terrible number. You really going to recruit so many people? Scipio said in shock. I plan to join the army when I grow up, and hope to make achievements on the battlefield. Now I'll practice first, Levi said. Scipio felt dizzy. He decided to recruit 2 legions of guards just to practice. This is too rich. And if he really has 2 legions of Roman citizens, then Levi can almost decide the matter of Capua. That is real power. Scipio secretly rejoiced that he did the right thing this time. I think Scipio will agree to meet you, Scipio said excitedly. Can I ask you one more thing? What is it? Do you think I can be your retainer? Scipio asked. Why? Levi looked at him with some surprise. If you go to Rome one day, I hope you can take me with you, Scipio said. Levi saw the blazing fire of unyielding in his eyes. This is definitely an ambitious man. No problem. Levi thought for a while and said, thank you very much, master, Scipio said with a smile. After Scipio left, Levi left Tullius Manor not long after. Julia had heard about what happened at the banquet. She said worriedly, you shouldn't be like this. What should we do? If they dare to reach out to the white sugar formula, I will chop off their claws. Levi said coldly. They are the administrator of Capua and the governor of Campania. Julia said dissatisfiedly. I am not the same person I used to be. Money can't solve all problems, but it can solve many problems, including this one. Levi chuckled and said, go back and tell Geta to come see me. I want to increase my guards by 10,000 people, and all guards must be citizens of Capua. Julia looked at him in shock. Why so many people? We have to spend at least more than 3 million dinars every year to maintain such a large guard. After my coming-of-age ceremony, I decided to join the army. I established great achievements on the battlefield and made my family famous, Levi said. After his coming-of-age ceremony, Sulla also fought back, and at that time it was just right to take them to the battlefield. Julia looked at Levi with some doubts. Levi used to be cowardly and didn't like to join the army. Why did he change now? But she quickly suppressed these thoughts. It may not be easy to recruit another 10,000 citizens in Capua. There are only 100,000 people in Capua, a considerable number of whom are slaves. If you deduct women, children and the elderly, there are less than 20,000 real adult male citizens. Then recruit them from the surrounding rural areas. If necessary, you can give up the age requirement and just serve as a guard for 5 years. You can even give up the requirement of retainers. But there is one thing you can't give up. You must support me politically, Levi said. I see. Can you pay them with just 2 legions of citizens? Julia said, that's enough. When the time comes, I will turn Capua upside down, Levi said confidently. If there are more, the Roman Senate will really be restless. He even suspected that the 2 legions might attract the intervention of the Roman Senate. After all, the current situation is too sensitive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 The Uncrowned King. Oh, there's one more thing. Prepare 200,000 dinars and go buy the strongest gladiators from all over the place. I have an agreement with Dio to fight with him at the Apollo festival. 200,000 dinars? Julia was a little embarrassed. Is it necessary to do this? This money is enough to buy 100 Capua champions. It is necessary. This is a bet involving 100,000 dinars, Levi said. So you took out 200,000 dinars to buy gladiators? Yulia couldn't help rolling her eyes. Okay. Yulia didn't intend to argue with Levi about this matter. Anyway, 200,000 dinars was just a few days' income for Levi. The next morning, in the Campanian governor's palace, after hearing what Allah said, an old man with a receding hairline was very disdainful. A little kid wants to fight to the death with our family. He really doesn't know how to live or die. He doesn't take us seriously at all. I think the administrator's idea is very good. We should agree, Allah said. Gutta looked at him and sighed deeply. This son can really cause trouble for him. You sent someone to say that you want to jointly produce white sugar with Levi, and you and Dio secretly pushed up the price of sugar beets. Gutta said. Yes. Dio said that the little kid doesn't know anything. If he is scared, he might hand over the formula of white sugar, Allah said embarrassedly. Dio is not a good guy. He wants to drag you into the water. Do you understand? Gutta said. I understand. He has a grudge against Levi, so he wants to drag me to deal with him together, Allah said disdainfully. Gutta nodded. It seemed that his child was not hopelessly stupid. He continued, so do you think Levi is so easy to deal with? Not easy to deal with, but as long as we get the sugar formula, everything is worth it. Father, you have seen that in just less than 2 months, Levi has accumulated nearly 1 million dinars of wealth. How much money can we make in a year? As long as we have this money, we can do anything we want, Allah said excitedly. Gutta nodded. Since his child has made a decision, let's do it and let that arrogant boy know how powerful they are. At this time, a slave suddenly said outside, Master, we have heard a very important news. What news? Gutta asked. Levi has sent people to the city to recruit guards again. 2,000 is not enough. How many more does he plan to recruit? Allah said with envy and jealousy. If only he could be so rich. 10,000. All of them must be Roman citizens. What did you say? How many? Gutta said in shock. 10,000. You heard it right. 10,000. There are not enough people in the city. They have sent people to the surrounding towns to recruit people. The slave said. Gutta and Alice were stunned and didn't know what to say. Madman. What a madman. Gutta couldn't help cursing. What a ruthless man. Alice murmured. How many people can stand it if he uses a big move when he disagrees with others? If Levi only had a very important influence on Capua before, then he will definitely be the uncrowned king of Capua in the future. It is no joke that Capua's affairs are decided by him. As long as Levi passes this level, they will be retaliated by Levi. At that time, fighting to the death may not be an empty talk. Allah saw fear and confusion in his father's eyes for the first time. Fight to the death, Gutta murmured. As the banquet ended, the nobles of Capua knew about the contradiction between Levi and the administrator and the admiral. This Levi is too reckless. He might suffer a great loss this time. Old Tullius sighed and said, Father, what do you think the administrators will do? Young Tullius asked. It's nothing more than forcing Levi's family into the name of the official before the guards have established their loyalty to the family, and taking away a few slaves who produce sugar. Old Tullius said, I'm afraid a lot of people will die in this way. Tullius frowned and said, so we have to be quick and ruthless, and be able to scare Levi and his guards, so as to reduce casualties. This is also the reason why Sejanus must join forces with Gutta. Gutta is the only one who can deal with Levi and Capua. Old Tullius said, then what do you think we should do? Tullius asked. Of course. At this moment, their butler suddenly shouted outside, Master, something big has happened. What happened? Tullius asked. The butler walked in with a look of shock, and then said, Levi. He announced that he would recruit 10,000 guards, and all guards must be Roman citizens. Hearing this, both Tullius and his son were shocked. Really, what a fool, what a ruthless man. Old Tullius said, they knew better than anyone what the Roman citizens of the 2 legions meant. It meant that as long as Levi could pass this test, he would completely dominate Capua. But it would cost nearly 4 million dinars a year for this. Is it worth it? Let's wait a little longer. Old Tullius said bitterly. It's so reckless. In Niaz's manner, Scipio sighed after knowing what happened at the banquet. This made him a little disappointed in Levi, who originally thought that Levi was a very remarkable young man. Yes, Levi's foundation is too shallow. If Gutta and Sejanus join forces, they may really succeed. Gnaeus said, there are not many people in Capua who can help Levi now, and Scipio is definitely one of them. Once Scipio and Levi join forces, using Scipio's huge prestige, Levi can completely offset the pressure from the officialdom. But Gutta has a large number of soldiers, all of whom are citizens. Coupled with the power of Sejanus, the strength of both sides is actually not much different. Scipio is unlikely to offend Gutta and Sejanus for Levi. Do we still need to contact Levi? Gnaeus asked. Wait a little longer, Scipio said. Sure enough, Gnaeus thought, Levi's future is not good. At this time, Gnaeus's butler rushed in and said, Master, someone just found this notice on a tree outside the manor. I think it's interesting, so I brought it here. What notice? Gnaeus asked curiously. His butler is not a person who doesn't know the importance of things. Since he brought the notice, it means that this notice is very important. The butler handed the notice to Gnaeus, who was shocked after reading it. This is impossible. What happened? Why are you like this? Chapter 29 Debate, Scipio said, and then he came over to read the notice. Great citizens of Capua, because the security in Capua is becoming more and more disturbing, I, Livius, am now recruiting 10,000 guards from the city of Capua and the surrounding towns. Cough. Cough. 10,000 guards. Scipio opened his dead fish eyes wide. How is this possible? Is he crazy? Should we send someone to inquire about it? Gnaeus said. Send someone quickly, Scipio said. This is really a crazy guy. It was the first time he heard of recruiting 10,000 guards directly. Gnaeus hurriedly sent someone to inquire about this matter. After more than half a day, the news finally came back. This matter is true, and it has spread all over Capua. Livius has sent a team to the city and surrounding towns to recruit guards. Scipio and Gnaeus looked at each other in surprise. Ha ha ha, Livius is really a young and promising boy. I really like him more and more. Scipio laughed. Yes, I think we should invite him to be our guest. Gnaeus walked down the hill, as if he had already forgotten what he had just said. Yes, we must. Scipio's eyes were fixed on the 10,000 Roman citizens and he could not move away. If he could gain the support of the Roman citizens of these two legions, his chances of success in the consulship would definitely increase greatly. As for Gutta and Sejanus, he had already thrown them out of his mind. Quick, send me an invitation and tell them that I want to visit Livy in person, Scipio said. In the Capua square, a young man was giving an impassioned speech. What are you still hesitating about? As long as you become a guard of the master of the Levi family, you can get 20 dinars, and food and accommodation are provided. The decapitation is 40 dinars, the centurion is 80 dinars, and the military tribune is 160 dinars a month. As long as you are a Roman citizen and as long as you think you have the ability, you can come and sign up. Capua is so big, there are only a few jobs that can earn 160 dinars a month. With your ability, can you get your turn? Even if you can't earn 160 dinars, there is a 1 in 10 chance to earn 40 dinars a month, and this time you don't need to become a retainer. You can sign a 5-year contract or a 10-year contract. Just guaranteed to support the master politically and repel the invading enemy. After listening to his speech, the people in the square were very interested. This is an era of low productivity, and ordinary people have no way to make big money. 20 dinars a month is already a lot for ordinary people, not to mention the opportunity to earn 160 dinars a month. I was a centurion in the Allied War. Can I be a centurion in your place? Someone asked. If you can prove that you were a centurion, we can demote you to a lower rank, because our training method is different from that of the general Roman legion. The young man said, do you really not need to be a retainer? No, all the rights and obligations are clearly written here. If you don't believe me, come and have a look. Soon someone handed over several samples of contracts made of sheepskin. Those people saw that they did not need to be retainers. After the contract expired, the two parties had no relationship. This made many people very excited. In fact, many people were unwilling to become retainers, even if there were many big figures among the retainers. because retainers were restricted by their masters in many aspects. In this way, many people were relieved. I want to participate. I will participate too. I was a centurion before. I want to sign up. Don't worry, everyone, line up slowly. Gutta, Sejanus and Aulus watched all this quietly. Their hearts sank to the bottom. It's fake. It's absolutely fake. He doesn't have that much money to support so many people, including food and accommodation. 20 dinars a month, 3 million dinars a year may not be enough. Where does he get so much money from? Sejanus said disdainfully. As a politician, he knew that if Levi had so many Roman citizens, it would pose a fatal threat to them. Not to mention that he would retire in another 6 months. Even if he was an administrator, Levi would have plenty of ways to deal with him. Sejanus wanted to make peace with Levi, but after Dio told him about his grievances with Levi, Sejanus gave up the idea. All he could do was to persuade Gutta to get on his pirate ship as soon as possible. Because he had no son, Dio was his only nephew, and he was also regarded as his successor. Let me think about it again, Gutta said with a frown. What are you waiting for? Let him recruit enough people, then prosecute us and put us to death at the Centuriate Assembly? Sejanus said with some madness in his eyes. At worst, we can go into exile. We are senior officials. Even if we commit a capital crime, we voluntarily go into exile. He can't do anything to us. According to Roman law, some senior officials can be exempted from the death penalty as long as they voluntarily go into exile even if they commit a capital crime. Cicero killed Catiline without trial because of the final ruling of the Senate, also called the final advice, emergency law, and was forced into exile afterwards. Some officials who tried the case even specifically asked them whether they wanted to go into exile. But my son is not qualified for exile, and your nephew and your wife are not qualified for exile either, Gutta said. That's why we have to kill him as soon as possible. Do you want your life to be in his hands? We will all die then. Sejanus roared angrily. There is just a little misunderstanding between him and me, and I think it can be resolved, Gutta said. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Gutta, I really misjudged you. I promise you will regret it. After saying that, Sejanus took Dio away from here. Father, is it really that serious? Aulus asked. Yes, if he really recruits 2 legions of Roman citizens, you will be dead. Gutta smiled, but there was endless bitterness in that smile. This life and death struggle is about to come true. Aulus just thought about the Roman judicial system and knew the reason. But as long as we get the white sugar formula, such a huge power will be in our hands, Aulus said. You just saw Sejanus's performance. Do you really think he was forced into a desperate situation? Gutta said. Isn't it? Aulus asked. You were deceived by his appearance. He thought I didn't know what he was up to. Do you know who Sejanus's backer is? Gutta said with a sneer. It's Consul Cinna. Aulus said that his father had told him this many times. What about my backer? It's Marius. Gutta and Sejanus followed Marius, Cinna and Carpo to rebel against Rome, and that's how they got these positions. Thank you very much for the rewards from Zhazan, Xiling Emperor and Wu Yu's life. If you have tickets, please vote. If you haven't collected it, please click to add it to your bookshelf. If you are interested in investing, you can invest. Why their lives are in Levi's hands. This involves the Roman judicial system, which will be explained in subsequent chapters. Chapter 30 Selection. But Marius is dead, and Cinna is still alive. Gutta said, Sejanus is a cunning guy. Even if he fails, he will live on Cinna's protection. Levi doesn't dare to offend Cinna at all. Aulus suddenly realized that this was the case. This guy just acted so fiercely, and he really thought he was a man who dared to do and take responsibility. Recently, my friends in Rome told me that someone has set their sights on my position. My situation is actually quite bad. When the time comes, Levi will vent all his anger on me, Gutta said helplessly. Although Gutta explained the reason, Aulus still didn't agree. At this time, they should be brave and diligent. If they get the white sugar formula, they will be promoted and make a fortune. Even without Marius, their family can be revitalized again. If they shrink at this time, the family will sooner or later fall into ruin. So, go and reconcile with Levi. There is no hatred that you can't resolve, Gutta said, stroking his head gently. Although Aulus was unwilling, he still agreed. He knew that his father would not harm him. He had always been the person who loved him the most in the world, and he loved his family even more than himself. The reason why he was so arrogant was largely due to his father's doting. No matter how big the trouble he caused, his father could help him settle it. A full moon hung high in the sky, with a breeze blowing. A large number of resin torches were burning around, occasionally making a crackling sound. A lot of sweat could not stop flowing from Gaius Memmius's body. Since the evening, he and his men have been standing on the training ground until late at night. But Memmius still insisted, and he also hoped that his men would hold on. Levi's centurion selection and assessment began in advance. In addition to the internal affairs inspection, there were also Q exercises, javelin throwing, armed cross-country and other subjects. Today's assessment was very simple, just standing, the longer the better. Memmius used to be just a small trader, living by selling small commodities in the streets of Capua. His life was extremely difficult and he could not save any money in a month. After hearing about Levi's conditions for recruiting guards, he agreed to it, so that he could save 20 dinars every month. Because he had studied before, was good at mathematics, had good interpersonal relationships and was smart, he successfully became a deputy centurion and was selected into the reserve officer corps to receive special officer training. According to his friends, this is the rhythm of key training. This made him overjoyed, and even the centurion Lucius Annius was very envious. He never thought that he, a poor boy, would be so valued and even have the opportunity to become a centurion. Plop! A guard fell down. Annius secretly glanced over and found that it was not his men. He couldn't help but feel happy in his heart, hoping that more soldiers from other teams would fall. Levi watched all this quietly, but his mind was no longer here. Scipio expressed his wish to come as a guest, which made him overjoyed. After all, this was a famous family in Rome. He remembered that he seemed to have become consul the following year. Although his performance in the war was a bit stupid, it would be very helpful to make an alliance with him to get through this period safely. As long as he gathered 10,000 guards, neither the administrator of Capua nor the governor of Campania would be afraid. By then, he would turn Capua upside down. He was very curious about the next move of Sejanus and Gutta. Would they jump off the wall or kneel down to beg for mercy? How many people fell? Levi asked. There are 32 people. Military judge Liberius said, let's stop here today and let them go down to have a good rest. There is no need to train tomorrow, Levi said. Also order the manor to be under martial law. No one is allowed to enter or leave without my order. Be careful of them attacking the manor. Yes, master, Liberius said. After receiving Livius' order, the soldiers cheered, and Memmius and Annius shouted excitedly, brothers, you are the best. Annius roared. He was a strong man with a full beard, about 1.85 meters tall, which was a bit outstanding among the generally short Romans. Their team was one of the few teams among the 50 teams that did not faint. In this way, they could get a full score of 20, which was one step closer to becoming a centurion. How could they not be ecstatic? Annius, does the treat you promised still count? Yes, if you lie to us, we will let you off during the armed cross-country race. You bastards, I can't afford to pay you this little money. Memmius and I will treat you at the tavern in the manor tomorrow. Annius laughed and scolded. These people were all his friends. Because Livius asked for free combination at the beginning, they combined into a team and usually got along very casually. His men immediately cheered, and Annius and Memmius gathered together. They were very reluctant to treat the guests tomorrow, but fortunately, they could still afford it since they were sharing the burden. We got 20 points today. You are smart. Calculate how many points we got, Annius said impatiently. Although the total score will be announced tomorrow, Annius is still eager to know the results of his team. Our housekeeping score is currently 14 points, the Q is 21, and the javelin is 8 points, plus the 20 points from today's test. Our total score is 65 points. Memmius said, since it is a test of the ability of the centurions, the weight of housekeeping and Q has reached the highest 30 points, and the javelin is only 10 points. Where can we rank among the 50 teams yesterday? Annius asked. 6th. Memmius said, shit. Annius couldn't help but curse. If the results were very bad, he would accept it, But this kind of mediocre is the most heartbreaking. Our housekeeping score is too bad, it drags us down, Memmius said. Damn you, Liberius, why is he so strict? Is housekeeping useful? Ennius said in annoyance. He was most annoyed with housekeeping. What's the point of it? Isn't war just about killing people with swords? He was the best at it. Memmius looked at him with resentment. The worst housekeeping was done by you, the centurion. He mentioned it several times, but Ennius didn't care at all. Now he regretted it. The housekeeping test will not end until 8 days later, and the armed cross-country test has not been tested yet. We still have a chance, Memmius said. Okay, let's fight it out in the next few days. If any bastard dares not to obey and do a good job of housekeeping, I will let them know how powerful my fist is, Ennius said. Memmius nodded with a smile. This guy finally got it. Chapter 31 Negotiation. Aulus looked at the manor in front of him fiercely. The manor had built a 5-meter-high blue brick and cement wall. The manor gate was a heavy wooden door covered with iron sheets. Some guards were patrolling on the wall. What a rich guy, Aulus said with jealousy and hatred. Even if it was just cheap blue bricks, it would cost a lot of money to build such a wall. His face looked a little gloomy. He was a great admiral, but he was asked to reconcile with Levi. This was simply unbearable for him. The words that made fun of Levi at the beginning were still fresh in his ears. Now he had to come to ask for peace like a stray dog. Aulus felt that the entire upper class of Capua would laugh at him in the future. He rode his war horse to the front of the gate and slowly stopped. At this time, a centurion on the wall asked, "Who are you and what's the matter?" "I am Aulus, the son of the admiral of Campania. I want to discuss something with your master," Aulus said coldly. The guards looked at him strangely. The grievances between Aulus and Livius had long been spread, and they had heard about it. What was he doing here? Wait a moment, we'll go and inform them, the decapitator said. Aulus couldn't help but get angry. Is this how you treat guests? Let a distinguished guest wait outside a gate? These days, the situation is special. No one is allowed to enter or leave without the permission of the owner of the house, the decapitator said. Aulus's eyes narrowed slightly. What does this mean? Did they discover the plan of his father and the administrator? Aulus didn't know that Sarabeo had betrayed them at this time. At this time, Livius was entertaining two very important guests, Scipio and Nias, a senator of the Roman Senate. Next month is July, and many people will compete for the consul next month. Therefore, Scipio was very enthusiastic about Livius. He not only invited him to Rome as a guest, but also was willing to introduce him to the dignitaries in Rome. Livius was not interested in this. If there had not been the Sulla rebellion, he would have really gone. It was still necessary to know some of the Roman dignitaries, but after Sulla conquered Rome, he massacred the dignitaries in Rome. What should he do if they asked him for help? Forget it. I like quietness and don't like running around, and there have always been people coveting my property. I have to watch here, Livius said. Scipio understood this very well and knew that he was not shirking his responsibilities, but he still felt very sorry. That's fine, but next month not only will there be consuls, but there will also be other positions such as treasurers, municipal officials, construction officials, and magistrates. I think many of the dignitaries in Rome want to know you, and they will welcome you with the greatest sincerity, Scipio said. The Roman system is such that if you want to elect consuls and other positions, Roman citizens must go to Rome to vote in person, not locally. Therefore, citizens in areas close to Rome are more valued, because the farther away from Rome, the less willing they are to go to Rome. Capua itself is not far from Rome, and it goes without saying that Livius, a powerful organization, attaches great importance to it. If Scipio can introduce Livius to those dignitaries, he can earn a lot of favors, which is very beneficial to the position of consul. Scipio must seize every opportunity. Only in this way can he defeat many opponents. Livius also felt very sorry. This is a great opportunity to make those Roman dignitaries owe him a favor. Why don't you introduce some friends to me, and I will send an envoy to contact them, Livius said. Who? Sarabeo, a lawyer. Livius said. Do you plan to make him the administrator of Capua next year? Scipius's mind turned quickly, and he immediately thought that this might be the agent that Livius pushed to the front. Yes, Livius said. Now he has no one to use, and the establishment of Scipio has made a great contribution, and his news has played a crucial role. What a lucky guy, Gnaeus said with a smile. He knew that Scipio's position as administrator was almost certain. Moreover, as Livius's envoy to Rome, he will surely gain a huge network of people. No problem, I will treat him well, Scipio said. How many people do you plan to send to Rome next month? 10,000 Roman citizens. What do you think? Livius said, that's really great. Scipio couldn't close his mouth with a smile. Although not all of them were sent, 10,000 Roman citizens were definitely the most powerful force besides the army. Can they bring their fathers and brothers? Gnaeus said at this time. Livius couldn't help but frowned. He was really greedy. Were they not satisfied with 10,000 citizens? This may have some impact on their lives. Livius said that it would be absolutely no problem in Capua, but it would take quite a long time to go to Rome. The autumn harvest is over in July, and Rome will organize games and gladiatorial contests at that time, which will be very lively. We can pay 15 dinars for each of them to travel, Gnaeus said. Livius knew that this was a negotiation. If he wanted to be an official, he had to spend money, and a lot of money. Even some nobles could not afford this money, so they had to borrow a lot of money. They borrowed money to compete, and after they succeeded, they borrowed more money to become officials, and tried every means to become higher officials, until they became praetors or consuls. This was the norm for many Roman officials. It is said that half of the Roman Senate senators had owed money to Crassus. Roman law stipulated that if a senator was found to be in debt, he would be expelled from the Senate. These senators kept their debts tightly, so Crassus gained great influence. When you become a praetor or consul, it is time to reap the rewards. After the term of office of the praetor and consul expires, they can go to the 10 provinces of Rome as governors. At that time, they can embezzle and extort money. Not only can they pay off their debts, but they can also live a luxurious life and successfully reach the peak of their lives. Even if people from the local province go to the Senate to sue them, it is useless. The mutual protection of officials is not only in China, but also in foreign countries, and basically they cannot win. However, there are a few cases where they can win. The reason for winning is often the power struggle within Rome, and the lawsuits from those provinces have only played a small role. Moreover, consuls and magistrates were qualified to lead troops to fight. Consuls and magistrates who could win battles were richer. Typical representatives were Caesar, Pompey and Lucullus. Take Lucullus for example. After he became consul, he went on an expedition to Pontus. After returning victorious from Pontus, he lived a life of luxury that shocked the whole of Rome. His highest standard for entertaining guests was 15,000 denarii for a meal, which was equivalent to the annual salary of 130 Roman soldiers. Even Livy was not so extravagant. Chapter 32 Introduction. At this time, Julia walked in quietly. Master, Aulus wants to see you. Aulus, what is he doing here? Levi said in surprise. Isn't he here to ask for peace? Gnaeus said disdainfully. Levi thought for a while. Just say I have a distinguished guest and take him to the waiting room to wait. Yes, master, Julia said. It's okay to let them go. I'll pay for the money. Levi thought for a while and said, anyway, it's not a lot of money, probably only a few 100,000. How can this be done? We have to pay for their families, Scipio said with a serious face. What if Levi feels distressed and is unwilling to mobilize their families? He will suffer a great loss. Actually, there is no need. No, we have to pay. Both sides were humble and Levi found that they were very determined, so he agreed. Well, then, I'll ask them to count and see how many people they can organize. Levi said. The more the better. Gnaeus said, we are not afraid of spending money, but we are afraid of not having enough people. If one person can lead one person, then there will be 20,000 people. Scipio can almost see the position of consul waving to him. Levi smiled. In addition, my branch in Rome will open this month. I hope you and your friends can go to support it. No problem. When the time comes, I will definitely invite all the celebrities in Rome and personally invite them to support it. Whoever dares to make things difficult for them will make things difficult for me. Scipio patted his chest loudly. Levi also laughed. With Scipio as a guarantor, No one would dare to cause trouble for him in Rome. The two sides discussed some details. After all, this may involve the food, drink, defecation and urination of 20,000 people, which is definitely not a trivial matter. At this time, in Levi's waiting room, Aulus was furious. It would be fine if he made him wait for a long time outside the manor, but why did he make him wait for so long here? Did Levi forget about him, or was he simply humiliating him? The long-term torment exhausted his last bit of patience. When he thought about apologizing to him, he felt that the whole world was laughing at him. How could this be possible? He, Aulus, would rather die than apologize to Levi. Aulus thought angrily. Aulus poured himself a glass of wine, took a sip and spit it out fiercely. Poof! What kind of wine is this? Why is it so unpalatable? Aulus couldn't help but curse. This was far from the Greek wine he usually drank. He cursed for a long time, but no one answered him. Only his slave guard stood aside cautiously. Aulus was in a bad mood today, and they didn't dare to offend him. Come on, come to me. Are they all fucking dead? Aulus cursed, and he felt that his anger had broken through the sky. At this time, a female slave came over. Excuse me, guest, what can I do for you? Is your master still entertaining guests? Why hasn't he come to see me for so long? Is he looking down on me? Aulus said angrily. His eyes were red, and he looked like he was going to eat someone. The master is still entertaining guests. Why don't you wait a little longer? Zybear said cautiously. Get out. Don't play tricks on me here. Let him come to see me quickly. Otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Aulus said. Hearing this, everyone's face changed, and his butler hurriedly said, Young master. The master said, Shut up. Are you the master or am I the master? I tell you that I have the final say here. Aulus cursed viciously. The butler's mouth moved, but he didn't say anything in the end. He just kept lamenting in his heart. It's over. This matter has been messed up. Let Levi come to see me quickly, otherwise don't blame me for turning my face and being ruthless. Aulus said. His young master's temper finally broke out. Didn't his father not join forces with Sejanus? He forced them to join forces. As long as they win the bet, becoming a consul will not be a dream. Sybil was terrified. She didn't expect this man to be so vicious. I got it. Sybil ran out in a hurry. Ha 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 ha. Aulus laughed triumphantly. Levi, you are 16 this year, right? Scipio suddenly said after talking about the citizens going to Rome. Yeah, what's wrong? Are you engaged? No. Could this old guy introduce him to a partner? Levi thought with a strange look on his face. How about I introduce you to a few Roman ladies? They are all from real wealthy families, well-educated, and noble. Scipio said with a smile. Hearing this, Levi was embarrassed. Speaking of the upper-class women in Rome at this time, it is not polite to say that there are a lot of sluts, and cheating is commonplace. Take Brutus, who assassinated Caesar, for example. His mother was not only the wife of a consul, but also Caesar's lover. Caesar was very good to Brutus, and did not punish him even when Brutus rebelled against him. It is said that he thought Brutus was his illegitimate son. Caesar was also a real playboy, just like Tony Stark, the Iron Man of later generations. In order to pick up girls, he was shameless, desperately giving gifts, and spending money lavishly. Just like Brutus' mother, that was a real spendthrift, only once gave a black pearl worth 1.5 million dinars. Remember that it was 1.5 million dinars at a time, which was equivalent to the annual salary of 13,000 Roman soldiers, so Caesar won the hearts of many women. Do you think Caesar is rich? No, all the money was borrowed. Caesar was a big debtor, a debtor. It is said that Caesar had improper relationships with the wives of 1/3 of the senators in the Senate. He was a real wife control and liked married women very much, just like Cowwoman. Moreover, he also cuckolded Pompey and his creditor Crassus. Caesar, who had been cuckolding others all his life, was finally cuckolded by others, and eventually the Roman triumvirate became the cuckold triumvirate. On a night of worshipping the goddess Bona, according to the rules, only women could participate. All men, including slaves and male masters, should leave their homes and visit other places. Claudius, a wealthy man from Rome, disguised himself as a woman and sneaked into Caesar's house to meet Caesar's wife Pompeia at night. As a result, He was discovered by a female slave and reported to Caesar's mother Aurelia. The clever Aurelia did not catch him, but just drove him away, thus avoiding Caesar and the Claudius family from becoming mortal enemies. When Caesar knew about it, he immediately divorced his wife, claiming that Caesar's wife must not be doubted. In fact, what Claudius did constituted a crime of blasphemy, and the Roman dignitaries who were fed up with Caesar's cuckold were waiting to see the show. Chapter 33. Beating with Sticks. Caesar's family was asked to accuse Claudius, but Aurelia and her slave girl refused to accuse Claudius on the grounds that it was too dark and they could not see clearly. Caesar said directly that I was not at home and I did not know anything about the situation. He threw the pot cleanly. Afterwards, Caesar not only did not turn against Claudius, but later became a political ally. Caesar cheated on Pompey and Crassus, but Pompey did not become a mortal enemy with Caesar, but married Caesar's daughter. Crassus did not hate Caesar, and later still lent money to Caesar, and even guaranteed Caesar so that he could go to Spain as governor. Roman men really made their wives like clothes, and Liu Huangshu only talked about it. If you really sleep with Liu Huangshu's wife, Liu Huangshu will guarantee to turn against you. This realm is far from the Romans. If Caesar, Pompey, Crassus and others are considered a generation of heroes, it is not surprising to do so. Then the moral gentleman of Rome, Cato the Younger, is incomprehensible. Cato the Younger was honest and upright, and was a recognized moral gentleman in Rome. However, an incident that happened to Cato the Younger was very horrifying. Cato the Younger had a good friend named Hortensius, also translated as Heinsius, who was said to be a nobleman with a noble character. Hortensius' daughter married Bibulus, a promising official in Rome. Bibulus later became a Roman consul, and the two had 2 children and lived a very happy life. Later, Hortensius fell in love with Cato the Younger's wife, Portia, and thought she was very beautiful, so he said, "How about I let my daughter marry you after divorce, so that the relationship between the 2 families will be closer?" But Cato the Younger thought this was not good, and he still had a wife, so Cato the Younger refused. So Hortensius said directly, "I have a crush on your wife. You marry your wife to me, and I let my daughter divorce and marry you." In fact, at this time, Cato the Younger's wife was still pregnant with his child, and Cato the Younger thought about it and still agreed. They found Cato the Younger's father-in-law and told him everything about it. When Cato's father-in-law found out that they all agreed, he promised Cato's wife to his friend Hortensius in front of them, and Hortensius' daughter also married Cato. This is a completely horrifying view of marriage, and later Italians and even French people inherited this concept. There is almost 100% cheating in marriage, and almost everyone has an extramarital affair. Just like Lydia in the American TV series Spartacus, while sleeping with the gladiator cries, she said that she loved her husband, which was completely carrying forward the cuckold tradition of ancient Rome. Levi said that he could not accept the upper-class women in Rome at all, and the probability of them cheating was incredibly high. Levi admitted that there were good women among them, such as Caesar's mother Aurelia, a very smart woman. After Caesar's father died, he still raised him up with great difficulty, but apart from her, he didn't know anyone else who could remain loyal to the marriage. "No need for this, I will find a way for my marriage." Levi refused cleanly and neatly, without any dragging his feet. Scipio looked at him in confusion, not understanding why he would do this. Wouldn't ordinary country knights like to marry Roman nobles? Why was he rejected after proposing it? Levi was worried that he would continue to dwell on this issue, so he used the method of changing the subject. "By the way, I have thought of a very important issue. You know, I have recruited another 10,000 guards, but you see, my place is too small, and there is no bigger place to accommodate them, so I hope." At this point he looked at Nias, who suddenly had a bad premonition. "I hope Nias can sell me some land." Sure enough, Nias couldn't help but smile bitterly. "I don't think this is a problem. What do you think?" Scipio said. "Well, how much do you want?" Nias said, "Levi is definitely a person worth making friends with, and if he can make him owe him a favor, it will definitely be of great help to his career. Nias is also an ambitious elder, the more the better." Levi said. 500 Uyghurs, I still want to keep my manor, Nia said distressedly. Okay, no problem, Levi said happily. It was great that the problem that had been bothering him was finally solved, but remember that you owe me a favor. If it weren't for your face, I wouldn't sell it, Nia said. Of course, Levi said hurriedly. Having solved the problem of expanding the manor, Levi was very happy. At this time, Cybele walked in. Master, Alice wants to see you, he said. What did he say? Levi asked. So Cybele told her everything that had just happened. Hearing this, Levi couldn't help but get angry. He had long regarded Cybele as his own forbidden fruit. Alice, who was a father-defying person, actually dared to tell her to get out. He really didn't know how to live or die. Scipio and Niaz looked at Levi with a smile on their faces, wanting to see how he would deal with it. Levi thought for a while and said, "Send some guards over and tell him that what I said that day will not change. No matter who it is, as long as he dares to get my white sugar formula, I will fight him to death. If he dares to be presumptuous, beat him out with a stick." This was not only said to Alice, but also to Scipio and Niaz. He wanted to tell the Roman dignitaries through their mouths that no matter who dared to stretch his claws to his white sugar formula, he would be a mortal enemy. He, Levi, just wanted to kill 2 chickens to show the dignitaries of Rome. Scipio and Niaz were both surprised. They thought Levi would compromise, but they didn't expect Levi to be so determined. A 16-year-old boy dared to say such words to the son of the Admiral of Campania. This kind of heroism alone is worthy of admiration. I know, Levi said excitedly, and then ran out, called a large group of guards and ran to the waiting room excitedly. I'll be here these days. If they dare to bully you, you can come and ask me for help. Scipio finally made a clear statement. Thank you so much, Levi said with a smile. I have done so much for you. Isn't it just waiting for you to say this? Not long after, they heard a burst of ghosts and wolves howling outside. Levi, you wait. Dare to ignore me. We will see. Yes, we will see, Levi said lightly. After Alice returned home, he unexpectedly found that Sejanus was also here. He was still persuading Gutta to cooperate with him, but Gutta was always playing Tai-Kai and had no intention of agreeing. He just came back from Levi's manor, and surrendering to him got results, Sejanus said with a sneer on his face. Chapter 34 Attack. Gutta looked at him with some surprise. This guy was really well informed. It seemed that he was waiting here specially. Father, you have to make the decision for me, Alice said with red and swollen eyes, and then he exaggerated this line. After listening, Gutta's face was livid. You said he drove you out? Yes. I didn't see him from beginning to end. He made me wait for most of the day, and finally he sent a slave to say that what he said that day would not change. Father, don't think about reconciling with him. Send troops to kill him quickly, Alice said angrily. Sejanus also joined in with a sarcasm. See, they don't take you seriously at all. Not to mention you as an admiral, they don't even take me as an administrator seriously. You want to surrender, but they want to kill you. Gutta didn't believe him immediately. He knew his son best, so he looked at his butler. Yes, the young master was generally right. He did send someone to pass on that message. The butler said, Asshole, since you want our lives, don't blame me for being rude. Gutta finally exploded. He didn't expect that his humbleness would lead to such a consequence. Well, you agree to my plan? Okay, I agree, but your plan has to be changed. Gutta said. How to change it? That day, I want his life. Gutta's eyes burst into an astonishing murderous intent. Sejanus just thought about it and nodded in agreement. No problem, I'll do as you say. When will we do it? The sooner the better. The day after tomorrow. I have to gather my men to convince them. Gutta glanced at the sky. It was already dark. It was not yet light, and many people were still immersed in sleep. The gate of the Capua garrison camp slowly opened. A large number of garrison troops walked out of the camp in neat steps, followed by some ox carts. These ox carts were pulling crossbows, but because the crossbows were extremely heavy, they were pulled behind the army. Not long after, a house near the garrison lit up, and one of them came out to take a look, quickly retreated, and then left through the back door. Not long after, several people rode war horses to Levi's manor. Dio hid in a field with a dozen gladiators. and a large number of grapevines covered their figures. He knew that today was the day of action. He wanted to participate in it personally, but was opposed by Sejanus. In fact, Sejanus was also unsure about this matter, especially after hearing that Scipio was a guest at Levi's manor the day before yesterday, which made them even more uneasy. But they had already drawn their arrows and had to shoot. The reality was that if Levi died, they would die, so he didn't want his nephew to get involved. But Dio was still a little worried, so he took the initiative to hide with some gladiators and guards halfway. If someone planned to report the news, this was the nearest way. Listening to the sound of horse hooves in the distance, Dio's face was full of haze. Sure enough, he was prepared. "Master, do you need to pull up the horse rope?" a slave gladiator asked. "Pull it up. Don't let anyone escape," Dio said. The slave gladiators quickly pulled the horse rope, and Dio watched it all with a sneer. Not long after, a cavalryman in civilian clothes appeared in his field of vision. The cavalryman rode fast horses and rushed forward desperately. At this moment, the war horse in the front neighed, and fell to the ground with the man and the horse, and then rolled for an unknown distance. The cavalryman was covered in blood and lost consciousness in the blink of an eye. The cavalrymen behind were shocked when they saw this and quickly stopped their war horses. At this moment, javelins flew out from the vineyards next to them. Either they hit their war horses or their bodies. "Retreat quickly," someone said. After saying that, he quickly turned his horse back and ran away. The gladiators and guards rushed out and chopped at the horses' legs. The war horses fell to the ground one after another, and finally only one cavalryman ran back. "Who are you?" "We are Roman citizens." "How dare you?" a cavalryman said with blood spitting out of his mouth. The gladiator who was about to kill him stopped and looked back at Dio. Dio had a complicated expression. Killing several Roman citizens at once was a capital crime. He stepped forward and took a look at the first cavalryman who was tripped and had no breath. "Kill them," Dio said, and at the same time made up his mind that these gladiators could not be kept. The slave gladiators were still a little hesitant, and finally killed the cavalryman at Dio's urging. They cleaned up the bodies and dragged the war horses into the vineyard. In Levi's manor, Levi was having breakfast with Julia's service, and Geta reported to him about some of the guards. In order to strengthen the defense of the manor, Levi selected some veterans who had participated in the Allied war from the newly recruited guards. At the same time, the guards were ideologically mobilized, and a group of centurions and temporary military tribunes were appointed, urging them to guard the manor no matter what. The whole manor was filled with a tense atmosphere. "How are the guards feeling now?" Levi asked. "The mood is relatively stable. Only a few people are uneasy, mainly some newly recruited people. After knowing that they might fight with the Capua garrison, they regretted joining the guards." Geta said. "The reason why they are in such a good situation is mainly because Levi asked Scipio and Nias to give a speech to all the guards last time." Scipio was happy to see this happen. He expressed his support for Levi and denounced some evil forces that coveted Levi's property, and stated that they have the power to resist any armed forces that dare to attack the manor. With the endorsement of two great Roman Senate elders and the lofty prestige of the Scipio family, the guards no longer doubted the legitimacy of their resistance to the invasion, which made Levi feel that it was worth it to invite them. "Tell them that those who perform well in this battle can be promoted, and they can be rewarded with 1,000 dinars for killing one person," Levi said. Geta couldn't help but gasp and said, 1,000 dinars is a huge number for them, which can buy 100 ordinary slaves, equivalent to the salary of a Roman soldier for 9 years. "But is it necessary to do this? As long as we pass this level, we will be the masters of Capua. At that time, the sky will be high and the birds will fly freely, and no one can stop us." Levi patted his shoulder and said, "Please rest assured, sir, I will tell them, whoever dares to escape from the battlefield will be killed." Geta said, "To be honest, he has never achieved such a high position, with thousands of people obeying his command. All this is like a dream, and he hates those who destroy it." Thank you very much for the reward from the dog who loves to eat grapefruit. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Hesitation. Go, and do a good job of ideological work on them, Levi said. Gata saluted and left. Due to the serious situation, he had not left the manor for several days. Not long after he left, the bell of the castle suddenly rang. Hearing this, Levi couldn't help but be shocked. Could it be that they came to attack so soon? Not long after, several guards rushed in a panic. One guard was covered in blood. Levi saw that this was the cavalry he sent out to keep a close eye on the Capua garrison. What's going on? Levi asked. Report to the master. The entire Capua garrison has been dispatched and is rushing towards us at full speed, with some crossbow carts following behind. When we came back to report the news, we were ambushed by a group of people. I took a long detour to come back, and everyone else died, the guard said weakly. Levi's face was solemn. He didn't expect the enemy to be so well prepared that they wanted to set an ambush halfway. Take him down to heal his wounds. Pass on my order. Everyone should be ready for battle, Levi said. Also sent someone to inform the guards of other manors and ask them to send some people to stop the crossbow cart. By the way, send someone to notify Scipio and the people in the city. Let's all get moving. Long live Levi, the guards said one after another. A low horn sounded, and a large number of soldiers poured out of the barracks and came to their combat positions. At this time, a large number of Capua garrison soldiers in full armor had come to the far side of the city wall. Looking at the guards walking up the city wall, Gata couldn't help but curse inwardly. Originally, he wanted to launch a surprise attack here, but now it seems that he has to change the battle plan. Gata and Sejanus looked at each other, then rode slowly to a dozen meters in front of the city wall, and the soldiers behind him followed him slowly forward. Aulus, wearing a chain mail, was also in the crowd. He was a military tribune of the Capua garrison. Is Levi here? I am Gata, the governor of Campania, and this is Sejanus, the administrator of Capua. I have come to visit your master for something. I hope you can open the city gate. Gata said loudly. No one is allowed to open the city gate without the master's order. Someone on the city wall said. Then please ask Levi to come out and answer. We need his help with some official business, Gata said with a smile. There was a commotion on the city wall, and soon someone notified Levi. Remember, listen to my orders later. If I tell you to kill, throw all your javelins at Levi, Aulus whispered to the surrounding soldiers. The soldiers nodded and tightened their javelins. Aulus smiled triumphantly. Levi, aren't you arrogant? Now let me see how I want your life. Not long after, Levi, wearing a chain mail, walked up to the city wall. Looking at the soldiers under the city wall, Levi looked disdainful. This is going to be a hard fight. I'll see how you end up. Admiral and administrator, what do you want to talk to me about? Levi asked with a smile. Levi, we had official business yesterday that required your cooperation in the investigation. Why didn't you go to the city? Sejanus said with a smile. Levi couldn't help rolling his eyes. You asked me to cooperate with the investigation, so I have to cooperate with the investigation. Who do you think you are? Besides, is it necessary to say something so obvious? I'm really sorry, I've been seriously ill recently. You see, I can hardly stand up, Levi said, supporting a guard next to him. Hearing this, the guards around him almost laughed. Sejanus's face did not change, and he still kept smiling, as if Levi was really sick. It's not too late to cooperate with the investigation now. We have received news that your manor is hiding one of Sulla's accomplices. I hope you can open the door and let me go into search to prove your innocence, Gata said with a smile. Levi took a breath of cold air. This is really a thief's spite. 3 points deep into the bone. Although he did intend to join Sulla, he had no relationship with Sulla at all. He never thought that Gata would use the trick of harboring Sulla's accomplices. You know, what Rome hates most now is Sulla's accomplices. Don't spit blood. I, Levi, will never harbor Sulla's accomplices. You are obviously coveting my sugar formula, but you made up such a ridiculous reason. I tell you honestly, you either come in or stay outside. Levi was furious. Really, Sejanus said with a smile. Kill. At this time, a roar suddenly sounded behind them. Nearly 100 Roman soldiers drew their javelins and threw them fiercely in Levi's direction. Levi couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. "Damn, so cruel, master, be careful," someone shouted. Without their words, Levi had already rolled and crawled on the ground, and then stuck tightly to the city wall. Whoosh, whoosh, puff, puff, don't. Immediately, the sound of javelins flying past the place where he was just now came. Because the javelins were too dense, some of them collided with each other in the air and fell on the city wall. Several guards around him were hit by several javelins at the same time because they hit too late, and were almost pierced through. A lot of blood splashed out and fell on Levi's face. Levi wiped the blood on his face, with a look of fear on his face. It was really close, just a little bit. He never thought that Gutta and Sejanus would be so cruel and decisive, and really rushed for his life. Not only Levi, but all the guards were shocked. They didn't expect that those soldiers would kill him. "You know, Levi is a knight of Capua, not an ordinary person. Do these people still have laws in their eyes?" "Master, are you okay?" Geta said with a look of horror. He was scared just now. Once Levi died, the whole family would collapse, and he would lose his hard-earned status. When he thought of the consequences, Geta wanted to kill someone. Since Levi became rich, Geta has become a big shot in Capua. Not to mention the respectful guards under his command. Every time he went to Capua to do business, I don't know how many people took the initiative to greet him. Among them were the families of the guards, as well as those nobles and knights who had never looked at him straight in the eye. Even a poor noble lady expressed her interest in him. How could Geta be so happy? He never thought that he would be able to marry a noble lady one day, so Geta cherished everything in front of him. "I'm fine," Levi said in shock, and soon became furious. Kill them for me. Fight back with javelins." This was the first time he suffered such a big loss. A group of bastards dared to sneak attack him, but what shocked Levi was that the guards did not fight back, and hesitation appeared on their faces. After all, the Capua garrison was in front of him. Chapter 36. Fireline Promotion. Assholes. Levi couldn't help but curse. This bunch of damn cowards. He didn't expect that all the ideological work was useless. Gutta laughed triumphantly. He felt that this time it would work. This can't go on, Geta thought. He pulled out a javelin of a guard beside him and threw it fiercely downwards. Because the formation below was extremely dense, his javelin pierced the shoulder of one of the soldiers, and those soldiers screamed. Gutta's face changed drastically, and he said angrily, "Geta, you dare to attack the Capua garrison. Now I declare you a Sulla accomplice and a public enemy of Rome." All soldiers, throw javelins at Geta. You have no right to declare Geta a Sulla accomplice. All officers take the lead in throwing javelins. If an officer does not throw, all positions will be immediately revoked. Soldiers who throw faster than officers will automatically be promoted one level and replace their positions. Remember that the great Senator Scipio is on our side. The Roman Senate is on our side. Levi had already entered the tower at this time, and at the same time he was pulling the leather and beating the drum in the tower. Scipio was indeed on his side, but the Roman Senate might not be. But this still gave many people the courage. You are indeed soldiers, but the two senators told us that we can fight back legally. Coupled with Levi's coercion and inducement, some guards finally threw javelins down. Raise your shield quickly. Some soldiers who reacted quickly immediately raised their shields in front of themselves. Don't. But there were still screams from below, and I don't know how many people were hit by javelins. Geta and Sejanus were both shocked and angry. Rebellion. All rebelled. Fight back quickly. After saying that, they quickly retreated. On the battlefield, javelins have no eyes, and once they hit, they will leave a hole. In this era, being injured by a javelin almost means death. Those soldiers immediately threw javelins at the city wall, and a large number of javelins fell on the top of the city. Some guards on the city wall were hit, and they fought back in anger. The two sides were caught in a fierce javelin throwing. For a while, screams were everywhere. I don't know how many guards and soldiers were hit by javelins and fell to the ground, but the guards on the city wall were protected by the wall, and they were in a high position, which gave them an absolute advantage. Those soldiers retreated out of the range of the javelins, leaving more than 100 soldiers lying in a pool of blood. Some soldiers were even wailing. Sejanus' face was gray. It was over. Completely over. More than 100 soldiers were killed and injured. This made things worse. Guda roared angrily, "Levi, this is treason. You wait for the trial of the Roman Senate." Levi looked at him with contempt. It was not certain who the Roman Senate would judge. He walked up to the soldiers and said, "You did a great job just now. The guards who threw the javelin first will be promoted to the next level. Everyone will be rewarded with 1,000 dinars. What's your name?" "Guard." "Position." "My name is Aeneas. I'm a decapitator and the head of a family." A big man saw Levi pointing at him and said quickly, "Very good. I declare you a centurion now. In addition, you will be rewarded with 1,000 dinars. Gita, go and count who threw the javelin first just now. Also, send someone to notify Yulia to take out 500,000 dinars and bring it here." Levi said. Gita responded quickly and began to count what happened just now. A total of 35 soldiers or officers fought back at the first time, so they replaced the positions of 35 officers. Those who were promoted were all beaming with joy. They didn't expect that it would be so easy to be promoted to the positions they had dreamed of before. As for those decapitators and centurions who reacted slowly, they were at a loss. Levi deprived them of their official positions in front of everyone. "Master, I just reacted a little slowly," a centurion begged bitterly. "A position with a monthly salary of 80 dinars is very difficult to find, and it is almost impossible for a civilian to get it. Then it depends on your performance. If you perform well, you can still keep your position as a centurion." Levi said, "Now is the time to recruit people." He doesn't want to push them too hard. If they perform well in the future, Levi can still keep their positions. Now the guards are expanding rapidly, and various positions are in short supply. Those officers who were deprived of their positions heard this and made up their minds to fight bravely and keep their positions at all costs. At this time, Yulia sent people to carry boxes of dinars to the bottom of the city wall. Levi opened the boxes, and a large amount of white dinars were exposed, dazzling countless people's eyes. Those newly promoted officers come to collect the money, 1,000 dinars each, Levi said. The officers were overjoyed. They didn't expect to earn 1,000 dinars so quickly. It was too easy, but it didn't affect them lining up to get the money. Looking at the heavy bag of dinars in their hands, I don't know how many people envied and hated them. To be honest, those who are willing to be retainers are all poor. Generally, rich people may not be willing to be retainers of Livius unless Livius is willing to pay a price that satisfies them. 1,000 dinars is definitely a generous bounty. Many Roman soldiers fought outside for several years with their heads on their backs and got so much money. They just threw a javelin and got so much money. This is crazy. I, Levi, do things fairly and never hesitate to reward, no matter who it is, as long as they work hard for me. I will never be stingy with rewards. Levi said loudly, everyone's performance just now is good. Everyone who participated in the battle will be rewarded with 100 dinars. The guards cheered. Levi knew that this was wrong, but the situation was urgent and he had to do it. Livius continued, I declare that in the next battle, any officer who hesitates will be immediately stripped of his position and replaced by a brave soldier. Whoever kills an enemy will be rewarded with 1,000 dinars. I have enough money waiting for you to earn, but I'm afraid you don't have the courage. Anyone injured in the battle will be rewarded with 200 dinars, and the disabled will be provided for. Those who died in the battle will be given a pension of 1,000 dinars. At the same time, according to the contract, the elderly in the family will be provided for and the children will help raise them to adulthood. The huge reward stimulated the hearts of countless people, and some people even breathed heavily. As for whether this war was legal, they didn't want to consider it at all. That was a matter for the big guys, and they, the little guys, just killed people and got money. Moreover, sometimes Rome did not punish the masses by law. There was a time when the Roman camp rioted collectively and killed their own superiors. In the end, the Roman Senate sent people to appease them, and everyone was innocent. Chapter 37 Detention. Moreover, Levi had told them countless times that they were trying to steal his sugar formula. The guards believed it. The fact that Levi could support 2 regiments of guards showed the value of the sugar formula, not to mention Gutta. They would be tempted if they were in his place. Moreover, Levi proved that he was a trustworthy man. 1,000 dinars were enough for them to live freely for many years, and even to buy some land and let their families live a happy life. Some people immediately decided that if those people came to attack again, they must kill a few people to earn some dinars. Seeing their high morale, Levi finally felt relieved. It seemed that this wave was stable. While Levi was mobilizing his soldiers, SYNOPSIS and Gutta were also discussing what to do next. Things were moving in the direction they least wanted to see. Gutta sent someone to propose to withdraw the injured soldiers, and Levi agreed immediately. After all, both sides planned to continue to stay in Rome, and they could not force these wounded soldiers to death. Report to the admiral: 52 of our men were killed and 94 others were injured, 63 of whom were seriously injured and needed immediate treatment. At this time, a centurion in his hand said. Gutta's face was gloomy. The wounds from the javelin were difficult to treat. The wounds were deep and large, and many people might die. SYNOPSIS looked ashen. This matter had become a big deal. Hurry up and let them go down for treatment, Gutta said. Gutta and SYNOPSIS both had gloomy faces and were speechless for a long time. Father, we have no way out. All we can do is continue to attack. Levi's city wall is only partially completed, and many parts have only a thin layer of brick walls. We can attack from those places, Aulus said. Aulus is right. We must grab the formula and then use the benefits of sugar to appease some people in Rome. Only in this way can we have a way out, SYNOPSIS said. Okay, let's act according to the plan. I will attack here, and you will take some people to find a weak link to contain them. Also send someone to make the ballista cart faster, Gutta said. At this time, several fast horses came from behind. Gutta and SYNOPSIS both had an ominous premonition. They looked in the direction of the horses and found that Scipio and Gnaeus were galloping towards this side with several people. Scipio and Gnaeus soon came to them. Gutta, what are you doing? Who allowed you to lead troops to besiege Levi's estate? Scipio said with a look of anger. How bold! These people dare to do anything for their own interests. If it were normal times, they would do it. But now is the critical moment of the competition for the consul. He needs Levi's support. How can he allow them to ruin his big event? Respected Senator Scipio, we received a report that Levi harbored Sulla's accomplices. We were afraid that they would escape, so we led people to surround this place, Gutta said. Scipio was stunned at first, and then laughed. These people are really good at making up charges. Okay, stop pretending here. Withdraw your troops immediately, and then follow the procedure. Otherwise don't blame me for accusing you of robbing the property of a noble knight in the Senate, Scipio said. Gutta and SYNOPSIS cursed inwardly. If following the procedure was useful, they would have followed the procedure long ago. But if they really followed the procedure, it would not be them who killed Levi, but Levi who killed them. Consul Cinna and Consul Carpo both said that arresting Sulla's accomplices is a top priority and no one can interfere. Two senators, I hope you can be cautious. This is a matter of great concern to both consuls, SYNOPSIS said. Hearing this, Scipio and Gnaeus's faces darkened. Cinna and Carpo are not ordinary consuls. They have a nickname called tyrants, and their hands are stained with the blood of countless senators and knights. If it is not necessary, no one is willing to go against them, especially in the matter of Sulla's accomplices that they are most concerned about. Here is the evidence we found. Why don't you two take a look at it first? SYNOPSIS took out a box and asked a slave to give it to Scipio. Scipio looked at him with a puzzled look, while SYNOPSIS looked down at him. Gutta said at this time, come on, take Senator Scipio and Senator Gnaeus down to rest. Remember, don't neglect them. They are just deceived by Livius. The soldiers were stunned for a moment. They were Senators Scipio and Gnaeus. Are they really going to be detained? How dare you? I want to see who dares to detain me today. Gnaeus couldn't help but said angrily. Although he was nothing in Rome, people like Gutta were just local bumpkins. It's useless to win them over with kind words, but it's useless to say who are you to detain Gnaeus. What are you all standing there for? Are you waiting for military law to serve you? Gutta said angrily. The soldiers had no choice but to rush forward and take Scipio, Nias and several of their servants away. "Gutta, you are so presumptuous, I swear you will regret it. Do you know what you are doing? You are detaining the elders of the Roman Senate." Nias cursed angrily, but Scipio looked thoughtful. Even so, the soldiers were all panicked. They were the elders of the Roman Senate. The reputation of the Senate had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Gutta actually detained them. "This is simply incredible, is it a little inappropriate for us to do this?" a centurion said with difficulty. "What's wrong?" "They don't understand the situation and are deceived by Levi. As long as Sulla's accomplices are caught, you will all be heroes. At that time, all of Levi's property will be yours," Gutta said. Although the prospects described by Gutta are very tempting, these soldiers are not fools. Levi is just an underage child. How could he harbor Sulla's accomplices? On the contrary, the contradiction between Levi and Aulus has long been circulated in the army. Coupled with Levi's mouth-watering wealth, they all know why Gutta did this. "Do you think they will agree to our conditions?" Gutta whispered. "Of course, there is no risk, and there are so many benefits. Why would they not agree?" Sejanus said with a sneer on his face. "No one knows those nobles better than him. They will do whatever they can to get benefits, and sometimes they even ignore the interests of the country and the family." "Gutta, you dare to detain Scipio and Nias, you are rebelling." At this time, Levi's voice came from the city wall. "Capua's soldiers, you also saw what happened. Gutta detained Scipio and Nias, which is a serious crime. The only way you can remedy it now is to turn back and arrest Gutta." Chapter 38 Transaction. After discovering that Scipio and Nias had arrived, Livius was overjoyed and thought he could survive this, but he didn't expect Gutta to be so powerful that he even detained the elders of the Roman Senate. This was simply too unexpected, so he could only think of ways to shake the enemy's morale. In fact, what he did was very useful. The garrisons in Capua were a little scared. "Ignore him, we have no way out," Gutta snorted coldly. "That's right, this is a gamble. Either success or exile abroad," Sejanus also said. "Then let me take the last gamble," Gutta said, and then he began to prepare for the siege. The soldiers escorted Scipio and Nias to a carriage in the distance, and then respectfully moved a few chairs from it and asked them to sit down. "These people are really too much. I really want to let them know how powerful I am." "What's wrong with you?" Nias said indignantly. Scipio did not speak, but opened the box and carefully read the papyrus inside. After reading it, he fell silent and handed the papyrus to Nias. Nias was surprised after reading it. He did not expect that Gutta and Sejanus would offer such a condition. "What should we do?" Nias asked carefully, hiding the papyrus. Scipio did not answer immediately, because Gutta and others proposed that as long as Scipio and Nias were under house arrest, they should not interfere. As long as it succeeded, they would have a share of the white sugar formula. If it failed, they could punish Gutta and Sejanus at will, and they would have no complaints. Such generous conditions made Scipio and Nias tempted. Especially Nias. His status was so far inferior to Scipio that he did not even think that he might get the white sugar formula. But now there is a chance. Anyone can see the huge benefits of sugar. With this thing, even if a few people share it, there will probably be a profit of more than 1 million dinars a year. How can they not be tempted by such huge benefits? Moreover, even if they fail, Levi will probably still thank them and even fully support their journey to compete for the consul. And all they need to pay is to be detained quietly. Scipio and Nias slowly smiled, and they understood each other's thoughts. "Do you have a fire?" Nias asked. "No." "What's the matter?" a soldier said in fear. "Find me a fire. I need it," Nias said. Not long after, the papyrus burned in the flames. False evidence. Obviously false evidence. How could Levi collude with Sulla? Nias said. "You are right." Scipio looked at the manor in the distance leisurely, not knowing whether Levi could withstand the attack of the Capua garrison. At this time, the Capua garrison split into two groups. One group attacked the main gate, and the other group went around in other directions. Levi said, "Geta, you stay here. I will take some people to defend other places." "Okay," Geta said, "you must defend it." Levi hammered his chest. "Master, don't worry, the city is here. Unless I die, the city wall will never be lost." Gata said. Levi nodded and walked to other places with some guards. Due to time constraints and tight funds, Levi's city wall was not perfect. Many places were simple walls, which gave Aulus an opportunity to take advantage of. Aulus found a place and ordered people to move a ladder and let the soldiers climb the wall from the ladder. After a soldier climbed the ladder, he didn't know that someone had heard the movement outside the wall, and some guards gathered here. The soldier stretched his head to see the situation below and found that many people below were ready for battle. Some guards held crossbows and some held javelins. Although the Romans did not like crossbows, Levi liked them very much. In the previous life, the Han dynasty was able to gain the upper hand in the battle with the Huns, and the crossbow played a vital role. Moreover, the Roman crossbows were very backward, and they did not even have compound bows. The energy lost during shooting was very large. Levi had already included the improvement of crossbows in his next plan. "Shoot!" a centurion shouted. The guards holding heavy crossbows immediately pulled the trigger of the crossbows, and arrows shot at the guards on the wall. The soldier quickly retracted his head. "The wall is too high. If you jump from it, you might break your legs, and we only have a few ladders. Jumping down one by one is to let them die," a centurion said to Aulus. Aulus looked at the wall carefully. The whole wall was about 6 meters high, equivalent to the height of a 3-story building. "It would be fatal if you jumped from it wearing armor." "Then what should we do?" Aulus said. "As long as we wait for the crossbows to come, it will be easy to break these walls," the centurion said. Aulus frowned tightly. The ballista cart was pulled by an ox cart. Each century of the Roman army was equipped with a ballista, and one person was drawn from each squad to operate the ballista cart. However, the ballista cart was very slow and it would take a long time to arrive, so it had not arrived yet. What he didn't know was that Levi had sent guards from other manors to intercept the ballista cart. "Is there any other way?" "Yes, for example, cut down a few big trees and use the trunks to directly hit the wall to knock it down," the centurion said. "Then let someone do it quickly. Don't waste time," Aulus said. The centurion happily accepted the order and left. He didn't want to get involved in this mess. It would be best to kill time by doing logistics in the back. Aulus was still thinking hard about how to complete the containment work. After waiting for a long time, Levi found that the opposite side still had no siege action, but he didn't know that they were stuck by the wall. So he asked the military judge Liberius to command the battle here, and he returned to the city gate. "Slow down, don't go too fast." In the city of Capua, 4 bearers were carrying a sedan chair and walking quickly towards the Capua Senate. Old Tullius sat on the sedan chair and said weakly, "Many of Rome's colonies, autonomous cities, and states have similar structures to Rome, such as municipal officials, magistrates, and local senates, but the number of senators in the local senates is much smaller, generally around 100. Among them, Campania is special. In the past, cities such as Capua were directly managed by administrators sent by Rome. Their functions are equivalent to magistrates, used to adjudicate local conflicts. But later, 10 cities in Campania and other places competed for 4 administrators, the so-called Campania 4 governors. Old Tullius is a member of the Capua Senate, and the chief senator of the local senate. If Livy hadn't sent someone to inform him that something big had happened, Old Tullius would really be unwilling to go to the Capua Senate with his health. Chapter 39, Capua Senate. The 2 cavalrymen sent by Levi looked a little ugly, but they couldn't rush them. Seeing that the old man was about to die at any time, it was really rare for him to come. Fortunately, they were not far from the Senate. They had already found a large number of people gathered outside the Senate, at least more than 3,000. Among them were a large number of young men with swords, as well as some old people and women, who shouted slogans to severely punish the robbers. "Who are these people?" asked old Tullius. "They are the guards of our family and some righteous citizens. They should have known about this, so they came to support them," a cavalryman said. Tullius and his son rolled their eyes together. The damn righteous citizens were either relatives of the guards or people who were paid to boost their momentum. In fact, his guess was correct. Levi knew that some newly recruited untrained guards were useless, so he asked them to set out from other manors and come directly to the Capua Senate to put pressure on the Senate. At the same time, They were also asked to contact their families and friends. It was an opportunity to make extra money anyway. Levi gave each person a high commission of 5 dinars a day. "Make way. Let the respected Senator Tullius in," a cavalryman said loudly. Those Roman citizens and their relatives and friends immediately made way for Tullius and his son to enter. "Respected Senator, you must severely punish the evil Gutta and Sejanus. Punish corrupt officials severely. Punish robbers severely." Those citizens shouted loudly, "I know. Tullius will handle it impartially." Old Tullius sighed at the power of Levi and promised everyone. It was easy to gather 3,000 people to besiege the Senate. What will happen in the future? "I'm afraid that tens of thousands of people will be mobilized at will." Thinking of this, old Tullius took a breath of cold air. "The young are formidable." A group of slaves carried old Tullius in, and then his son helped him up the stairs. After entering the Senate, the place had already become a market, with excited noises everywhere. "It's outrageous. Gutta actually dared to mobilize a large army to attack a noble knight of Capua and openly snatch the sugar formula. Is there any justice in this?" At this time, a tall, white-bearded senator said passionately. There was a buzzing sound below, and old Tullius sat down in his seat with difficulty. Young Tullius looked at him eagerly and then left. This was not a place for him to stay. Old Tullius knew the meaning of his look. It was really that the price given by Levi was too tempting, and young Tullius couldn't help but be tempted. "Hey, old friend, why are you here too?" At this time, a middle-aged man with light gray eyes and gray hair came over and said. It was his friend, the elder of the Capua Senate and the former administrator Claudius. "Such a big thing has happened. How can I not come?" Old Tullius said. "Let me guess, could it be that Levi promised you something?" Claudius said with a smile. "Yes. Didn't he promise you something?" said old Tullius. "He said that if I help him this time, then I will win his friendship. If I want to go to Rome to compete for the positions of tribune of the people, treasurer, construction officer, or priest, high priest, he will help me once." Claudius said. He had no intention of hiding it. He had a good relationship with old Tullius. Such behind-the-scenes transactions were common in Rome. Old Tullius was silent for a while and said, "The conditions he gave me were similar, but he added the position of administrator of Capua or owed me a favor, and he could give it to my son." "What do you decide to do?" Claudius asked. Old Tullius laughed at himself. What could he do? His body was no longer good, and he could only put his hope on the next generation. When he was young, he was ambitious and once traveled to Rome to study, hoping to get his family out of Capua, become a member of the many dignitaries in Rome, and bring his family to a new peak. Unfortunately, the water in Rome was too deep and the competition was too fierce. Not long after, he returned to Capua in disgrace and then developed in Capua with peace of mind. But now Levi gave him a chance. Levi was very strong, stronger than the combined strength of the elders present, even stronger than 98% of the dignitaries in Rome. This was completely powerful enough to beat everything and crush everything. Just like what Levi said, one force can defeat 10. If it weren't for Levi's unstable foundation, Sejanus and Gutta would kneel down and call him grandpa. As long as Levi was willing to go to Rome, he would become a VIP of almost every dignitary. No one wanted to offend such a terrible power. Just like Scipio, as long as there was even a trace of political ambition, no dignitary would easily offend Levi. In fact, old Tullius felt that Levi's operation was too rough. If he had as much money as Levi, he would be sure to raise 20,000 or even 30,000 Roman citizens to work for him. By then, let alone the Chief Justice, even the consul would be in his pocket. Thinking of this, a trace of greed flashed in the eyes of old Tullius, but soon this trace of greed disappeared. Gutta and the others are indeed too much, old Tullius said lightly. You are right, Claudius said with a smile. The elders in the Senate continued to argue, and because the elders were not all present, they could not vote. Sejanus was about to die, even if Cinna stood behind him. After this incident, Gutta would be skinned alive. As people in the system, they all knew how terrible Levi's strength was. Old Tullius and others were still calm and waited for the elders to arrive. At this time, a guard rushed in a panic. Something big happened. Dear elders, something big happened. What happened? Someone asked. Gutta actually arrested Senators Scipio and Nias, the guard said. In the Senate, the sound of falling leaves could be heard, and then countless people gasped. Even old Tullius was stunned. This is impossible. How could he do this? That's a senator of the Roman Senate. Everyone exploded. The senators of the Roman Senate dominated the entire Mediterranean. When they went to other countries, even the monarchs had to be respectful and send a lot of wealth. Envoys from other countries often only knew the Senate and didn't pay much attention to the consuls. Moreover, the Senate had a big killer, that is, the final judgment of the Senate, also called the state of emergency law, final advice. Once this big killer was used, the Senate could order the consuls to kill anyone without trial. Gaius Gracchus, who carried out reforms, and his followers died because of this final judgment of the Senate. Chapter 40 Block. Moreover, Scipio was the descendant of the god of war family, which had produced several consuls. There was a strong voice for him to win the consulship this time. With two such important figures being detained in Capua, it is understandable that the elders were terrified. And the two sides have fought a great battle, with more than 300 casualties. The guard continued. 300 people. Some elders looked terrified. This is a huge case. This case might alarm Rome. We must stop this illegal killing. Rescue Senators Nias and Scipio. Claudius stood up and said righteously, "That's right. We must act immediately and rescue them." Old Tullius also spoke. The elders of the Senate expressed their opinions one after another and reached a consensus at the fastest speed. Not only did they send fast horses to convey their decision, but some people were also prepared to go to the scene in person with the citizens of Capua outside to stop the killing. Tullius, go quickly, maybe you can make Levi owe you a favor. Old Tullius called his son and whispered to him. Tullius nodded, quickly found a horse, joined the cavalry, and rushed out of the city at lightning speed. Waste, all of you are a bunch of waste. Gutta pointed at his men and cursed. They were not working hard during the siege just now. The ladders were ignited by kerosene, and then they were directly forked outside with iron forks. They were asked to throw javelins at the city walls, but they collapsed as soon as the people on the wall fought back. Gutta was so angry that he wanted to kill people. Why don't we wait for the ballista to arrive? Sejanus sighed. No, we don't have much time. We must attack as soon as possible. Gutta shook his head and said. Sejanus also cursed inwardly. Why hasn't the siege vehicle arrived yet? At this time, Aulus ran over excitedly. Father, we cut down some trees to make battering rams, and we are ready to break through the city walls. That's great, Sejanus said excitedly. Not bad. Gutta also looked very pleased. He didn't expect that Aulus would solve this problem in the end. As long as he had these tree trunks, it would be easy to break through the walls. I leave this to you. Just hold them back, Gutta said to Sejanus. Sejanus nodded. Gutta and Aulus were about to leave when a lot of horse hooves came from the distance. Gutta stopped in a hurry and looked at the distance with a serious face. It was likely that those who came at this time were not friends. Soon dozens of cavalry appeared in front of them, led by several noble children of Capua, which made Gutta frown. Seeing that the manor was not breached, Tullius and others breathed a sigh of relief. So they won the bet. The cavalry slowly stopped in front of Gutta and others. Tullius said, pass the order of the Capua Senate. After the vote of the Capua Senate, they unanimously ordered you to stop attacking Levi's estate and release Scipio and Senators Nias. Gutta and Sejanus' faces changed. It's over now. I don't think the Senate knows the situation here. Levi is, Gutta argued. I don't care what the situation is here. Please follow the order of the Capua Senate. Tullius said coldly. Okay, I have no problem, Sejanus said with difficulty. As the administrator of Capua, he was subject to the constraints of the Capua Senate. Gutta sneered. I refuse. He is the admiral of the entire Campania and directly obeys the orders of Rome. Moreover, the military and political lines are two lines, and the Capua Senate can't control him. Then please release Scipio and Senator Nias. You have no right to detain them. Tullius had anticipated this and pointed directly to Gutta's weakness. This is impossible. They misunderstood me. I can't let them affect the work of clearing out the remnants of Suewae, Gutta said. Tullius snorted coldly and said to the cavalry, You go find Scipio and Senator Nias. I want to see who dares to forcibly detain Scipio and Senator Nias. Many of the cavalry were Levi's men, and they immediately searched everywhere. Father, we must stop them, Allah said. It's too late. Let them find it. But we still have a chance. You immediately take everyone, including my soldiers, to attack the manor as quickly as possible. As long as we get in, maybe we can still win, Gutta said. Allah looked at him with a puzzled look on his face. He didn't know about the secret deal between Gutta and others and Scipio, but he didn't ask more questions, but left here with his soldiers. At this time, Tullius and his men had already found Scipio and his men, and Gutta could only helplessly follow them with his personal guards. Scipio and Nias were cursing at the soldiers, and the soldiers lowered their heads and dared not speak. You were so emotional just now. Why are you so excited now? Tullius always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. I am very sorry for my behavior just now. I hope you can listen to my explanation, Gutta said sincerely. What else can I explain? Your actions prove that you are basically treasonous. Why don't you order your soldiers to stop attacking? Scipio said righteously. Gutta kept smiling, but he would never give that order. Nias was going to rush in another direction, but was stopped by the soldiers. Nias had to stop and curse at the soldiers. Scipio, how about we kill them? At this time, a cavalryman said. What did you say? Can you kill them? Scipio looked at him with eyes that looked at a fool. Seeing the cavalryman blushing, their 50 cavalrymen were indeed no match for the more than 200 guards in front of them. But didn't they have you? You are the descendant of the dignified military god family Scipio. If you say something, how dare those soldiers attack you? But it's hard to say it out loud. Gutta was like a bullied daughter-in-law. No matter how Scipio and Nias beat and scolded him, he just didn't fight back. But it was impossible for him to give way, and it was even more impossible for him to order the army to stop the attack. Tullius looked at Scipio and Nias with a puzzled look on his face. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something, and a cold sweat broke out on his back. Is this possible? People's hearts are really sinister. Boom. Under the command of neat trumpets, the soldiers hugged thick wooden stakes and slammed into the wall fiercely. Aulus was grinning. Levi, you are dead now. Chapter 41, A Big Reward. What's going on outside? Why are they still attacking? Livius said. He had seen the situation outside just now. It seemed that the Senate had issued an order. Why didn't Scipio and others come to stop them? What went wrong? How about I lead people to fight out from the main gate? I saw that there were only more than 200 people around Gutta. As long as we capture him, we will win, Gita said. Livius shook his head. It's too late. Order the guards to get ready. All the guards were on full alert, forming a semicircle to surround the place where the enemy hit the wall. At this time, a large part of the wall collapsed, revealing a gap and the soldiers behind. Livius said, shoot. The soldiers holding heavy crossbows standing about 80 yards in front of the wall immediately began to shoot arrows. After shooting the arrows, they immediately retreated to the back, and a row of soldiers behind them came forward. Don't. Some of the exposed soldiers were shot by arrows and retreated screaming. The wooden stake fell heavily on the ground, and it was unknown which Roman soldier's foot it hit, and a shocking scream was heard. Raise your shields. Turtle formation, Aulus said. The Roman soldiers in the front row immediately raised their shields to the front, and those in the back raised them upwards. This is a very classic Roman infantry tactic and the most used Roman tactic. Shoot, Levi said. 80 yards is a distance that makes the opponent uncomfortable. Roman soldiers usually charge to a distance of 30 yards before throwing javelins. Now they can only take the beating and cannot fight back. On the contrary, Levi's armor-piercing arrows can exert great power and can easily penetrate the shield and pierce the soldier's hand, connecting the soldier's hand and shield together. At this time, another wall was broken by the wooden stakes. One wall after another was broken by the wooden stakes, and the gaps became more and more. Should we use the guards later? Gita said. Levi's guards are not only highly skilled in martial arts, but also equipped with carburized steel swords, which are not at the same level as the weapons of these Roman soldiers. I hope I don't need to use it. Levi took a deep breath and said. At this time, a trumpet sounded outside. According to the Roman military order, One trumpet sounded to order the army to attack, and another sound was to retreat. Aulus' army rushed directly into the manor with shields raised. Levi immediately ordered the crossbowmen to retreat, revealing the Roman infantry phalanx behind. "Remember 1,000 denarii per head, attack," Levi said loudly, and the trumpeter standing beside him blew the trumpet of attack. 1,000 denarii per head. Hearing this, I don't know how many people were excited and eager to try. After receiving Levi's order, the first row of infantry immediately began to charge. Unlike ordinary Roman generals who like to put young people in the first row, Levi put the strongest soldiers in the first row. Those he put in the first row were veterans who had participated in the war, and Caesar also liked to do this very much. In this way, the soldier's charge is often very fierce, and it is easy to defeat the enemy with one blow. This time is the same, as veterans who have participated in the war. Their skills are very skilled. When they reached 30 yards, they threw javelins and howled as they rushed towards the enemy. Their eyes were red, and they looked at the enemy in front of them, not like an enemy, but like a silver man made of dinars. Their eyes frightened the enemy. What kind of eyes were they? So greedy, so cruel. The few enemies who rushed to the front were chopped and killed by them in a few seconds. "I killed a man," a soldier roared, as if declaring his ownership of the dead enemy in front of him. He couldn't help but not care. This was 1,000 dinars. An officer behind him rolled his eyes and recorded a beheading record for the soldier, because of the fear that the soldiers would cut off their heads or compete with others for the heads. All beheadings were recorded by the officers of the military court behind. Moreover, Levi did not dare to let them really cut off their heads. These were Roman soldiers, and it would be too troublesome to really cut off their heads. Hearing his shouts, many guards became jealous. Some people got rich today, and some even received a reward of 2,000 dinars. How can people be willing to do so when some people didn't get a single copper coin? So they rushed to the enemy like tigers descending from the mountains. The enemy came in too slowly, and there was no enough to kill. They even quarreled over the enemy, and everyone was jealous. Each head was 1,000 dinars, and they had no choice but to fight for it. Not only were the enemies stunned, but even Levi was shocked. "Did they do the same just now?" Levi asked. Geta knew that Levi was talking about the time when they were guarding the city wall, so he said, "Almost the same, but there were fewer people coming up at that time, and some people didn't allow the ladders to be burned, saying that they wanted to let the enemy come up." Levi couldn't help but cover his eyes. It was really embarrassing. "Don't argue. Whose head counts will be recorded by the military judge later," Levi said loudly. After hearing Levi's words, the guards stopped quarreling. After all, it was the words of the head of the family, and they had to listen. After killing the enemies who rushed in like cutting melons and vegetables, many people were not satisfied and wanted to rush out. At this moment, the second horn sounded, and those people could only retreat unwillingly. Aulus felt that there was something wrong with the enemy in front of him. Facing the officers and soldiers, why did they all act like seeing a beautiful woman stripped naked? So he ordered the soldiers to retreat temporarily. There was a burst of cheers in the manor, and then they began to distribute money. In order to win this victory, Levi distributed money very promptly, as long as there was time. More than 50 people received 1,000 dinars, and 4 people shared 2 heads. They almost fought for this, but the effect was very good, and the morale of Levi's guards was very high. Some people looked at those who received money with green eyes, like evil wolves. "I think we can definitely fight our way out and kill them all," Geta whispered. Levi nodded. The morale was good, but this was impossible. If he killed too many, he would have to bear too much pressure, and the most important reason was that he didn't have that much money. He only had about 800,000 dinars in cash, which was not enough to support the bounty of more than 2,000 soldiers outside. "Let them stay inside," Levi said. "Wait for our people to come." Geta nodded. It seems that they won this time. Outside the manor, Aulus still felt a little dizzy. His regular army was defeated by a group of guards who had only been trained for about 2 months, although there were many veterans among them. This was not a reason for failure. And those people's eyes looked like they were eating people, which was terrifying. They seemed to say that killing one person would earn 1,000 dinars. Someone said. Hearing this, Everyone immediately became angry. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Unlimited Jurisdiction. How can they do this? We are Roman soldiers, and they dare to put a bounty on our heads. This is too much. We must sue them. No wonder they fight so hard. I would fight too. Aulus snatched his teeth in anger. It was really too much. Are we still fighting? Asked the centurion. Of course we are fighting. This time there are too few gaps. As long as we make more gaps, we will definitely win, Aulus said. Oh no, they are filling the gaps, someone said. Aulus looked back and found that some slaves had already thrown large bags of soil into the gaps close to the city wall, and the gaps were filled back at a speed visible to the naked eye. There was no more hesitation. Aulus said, the 3rd and 4th battalions, come on. So these garrisons launched an attack on the wall again, but what frightened them was that the enemy was too fierce. Although they attacked, they were quickly killed out. The enemies looked at them as if they were walking dinars, and rushed towards them without caring about their lives, fearing that they would be overtaken by others. If it weren't for Levi stopping them, they would have already rushed out of the manor. The morale of the entire army was extremely low, and Aulus was helpless. What should he do? Gutta was extremely anxious at this time. He had been dragging it on for so long. Why had Aulus not broken through the manor yet? You know, time is their life. He sent people to inquire about the situation, and after reporting back, the whole person seemed to have lost his soul. Unexpectedly defeated. What should I do? At this time, a large crowd appeared in the distance. Dozens of Capua elders, some riding horses, some sitting in carriages, walked in front, followed by their family guards and slaves, many of whom were carrying weapons. Then there was a large group of Capua citizens. They were old and young, men and women, but mostly adult men. Senator Scipio, Senator Niaz, are you all right? A Capua senator said in surprise after seeing Scipio. It's okay. Fortunately your people came in time, otherwise I don't know how things will end. Scipio said gratefully. This is what we should do. Gutta, you bandits, you actually robbed a child's property. At this time, a crowd behind said, bandits, bandits, kill them, kill them. The citizens following the elder suddenly became angry. They took the stones they had prepared and threw them at Gutta and others. The sudden change shocked many people. A stone hit Gutta's head and woke him up directly. Upright shield, turtle shell formation, Gutta said. The soldiers immediately stepped forward, raised their shields, and protected Gutta and Sejanus in the middle. Even Scipio and his men were implicated. They fled to the distance in a panic. Citizens of Capua, everyone stop first and listen to me, a Capua elder said loudly. But they didn't listen to him at all, and still threw all kinds of things at Gutta and others. Stop, I will kill you if you throw more, Gutta shouted loudly. Of course, this was just a threat. If he dared to kill Roman citizens in front of so many senators, no one in Rome could protect him. Don't listen to him. He doesn't dare to kill people. Sure enough, there would always be a master in the crowd who would give advice at the right time. People continued to throw stones at them, and some even rushed towards Aulus. It's over, it's all over, Gutta said. The ending was already doomed. Aulus could not be the opponent of these Roman citizens, even if the other party was unarmed. Let's retreat. Gutta led the soldiers to retreat, and the crowd only chased for a short distance before stopping. Then the crowd cheered. This is a victory for the people. The senators didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but they knew that all this was just an appearance. Levi controlled all this, and they would even control them to send Gutta and Sejanus to the cross. The night was as cold as water, and the bloody day finally passed. A large number of bonfires were lit outside the manor, and Levi slaughtered pigs and sheep to reward the citizens of Capua who came to help. After sending Scipio and the others away, Levi carefully thought about his gains and losses during this period. He found that he had underestimated these politicians too much. They were really willing to risk their lives at the critical moment. Levi, Let's not do this again in the future. Why don't we find a chance to make peace with them? Julia said with red and swollen eyes. She didn't know how many tears she had shed today because of Levi. Why should we make peace? It's obvious that we will win, Cerebio said with a smile. No one knew where Cerebio had hidden that day, and he only appeared after the event. We will win? How is this possible? Julia asked in confusion. Explain it to him, Levi said. Cerebio nodded, and then said, today's event is a big event, which is bound to shake the whole of Rome and even attract an investigation by the Roman Senate. But no matter how things go, as long as the head of the family is willing, Gutta and Sejanus will at least be exiled, but their families will die. Even the Senate and the consuls can't save them. Why? Julia asked. This starts with our judicial system. Our general cases are decided by judges and juries. When major events occur, they can be decided by the Senate. But there is one exception, that is, the death penalty. Cerebio said. Our laws stipulate that all death sentences can only be decided by the People's Assembly, which includes the Citizens' Assembly and the Centurion Assembly. Moreover, the trials of the Citizens' Assembly and the Centurion Assembly, are exclusive, that is, their trials are final, and even the Roman Senate has no right to change them. As long as we convene the Capuus Centurion Assembly or the Citizens' Assembly, then we will win. Julia suddenly realized that it was no wonder that Levi had been desperately recruiting people some time ago. She thought it was just to protect property, but it turned out that it also had this function. There were only more than 20,000 Roman male citizens in the entire city of Capua, and there were not many in the surrounding towns and villages. As long as Levi could mobilize the relatives and friends of the guards, he could easily raise 20,000 to 30,000 troops. In fact, Levi didn't know this before, and he only knew it after Cerebio explained it to him. Julia suddenly discovered a terrifying fact. So whoever the master sues will win, even including letting them die. That's the principle, Cerebio said with a smile. Thank you very much for the tip from the tiger and the crazy Beijing girl. Chapter 43, The Centuria Assembly. This is why he sincerely surrendered to Levi. This is unlimited judicial power. Even the dictator does not have this power. The dictator only has unlimited administrative power and unlimited military power, but it is also subject to the constraints of the Citizens' Assembly. The Citizens' Assembly of Capua is controlled by Levi. Now Levi is the uncrowned king of Capua, and even the consul can't do anything to him. He is even angry and wants to kill anyone he wants, and he kills legally. This is why those Capua elders bowed to Levi. Of course, all this is based on strong wealth. The wealth of Crassus, the richest man in Rome, was only 170 million sesterces, or more than 40 million dinars in his heyday. On the contrary, as long as Levi's white sugar can be sold, he can earn about 10 million dinars a year, which is many times stronger than Crassus's strength. This is a miracle that others cannot replicate. It is a huge profit obtained by relying on monopoly. That makes me feel relieved, Julia said. The reason why the family head did not fight back is that we have not recruited enough people, but we did not expect the enemy to be so fierce. Cerebio said. Do you think I should sue them at the Citizens' Assembly or at the Centuriate Assembly? Levi asked. In the past 100 years, more and more death sentences have been decided by the Citizens' Assembly, while the Centuriate Assembly has been less and less. However, this time it involves official crimes, so it is reasonable to use the Centuriate Assembly to make a judgment. If they do not want to go into exile, they will definitely insist on the Centuriate Assembly to make a judgment, Cerebio said. Levi could not help but frown. He actually preferred the Citizens' Assembly. The Citizens' Assembly relatively pays more attention to the number of people, while the Centuriate Assembly is biased towards the rich and powerful. There are a total of 193 Centuriates in the Centuriate Assembly, some say 373, which is controversial. Centuriates are an organization divided according to the amount of property, and this division standard is constantly changing. After the Third Punic War, Rome divided the people into 6 levels according to their property, namely 1,300,000, 100,000, 50,000, and 6,400 asses. 1 dinar equals 16 asses. Among them, There were 18 centuries of cavalry, and 80 centuries of the first level. There were 20 centuries each in the second, third, and fourth levels. There were 30 centuries in the fifth level. There were 5 centuries of blacksmiths, carpenters, trumpeters, buglers, and lightly armed soldiers, among which blacksmiths and carpenters were classified in the first level. There was also a century composed of the proletariat, which was the most tragic. Generally, they did not have to go to the battlefield and had the least power. Since the Centurion Assembly voted in units of centuries, there were 120 centuries in the second level, which was more than 300,000 asses. These were all rich people, with the least number of people, but they occupied more than half of the centuries. As long as they remained consistent, they could decide everything about the Centurion Assembly, so the Centurion Assembly was completely a meeting of the rich. Although Levi had many subordinates, to be frank, most of them were poor, with basically no knights or rich people. Once the knights and rich people in the Centuriate Assembly determined that Gutta and Sejanus were not guilty, then no one else would have anything to do, and then they would go back to their own homes and look for their own mothers. No matter how many people you had under your command, it would be useless. It was even more excessive when the Centuriate Assembly was first established. At the beginning, only the cavalry and the first level were invited to discuss matters. If everyone discussed and came to a conclusion, then the matter was settled. Below the second level, you had nothing to do at all, no matter how many people you had. Only when the knights and the first level had a dispute, the second level was summoned to discuss. If there was a result, the matter was settled, and then below the third level, you had nothing to do, and you could do whatever you wanted. So this assembly was a rich assembly, but the ancient Romans thought this kind of assembly was very reasonable. Now we are facing a problem. If a citizen assembly is held, then Gutta and Sejanus will definitely choose to go into exile. Sarabeo said. Levi felt a headache. What should he do? Now that they have made such a big enemy, will they just sit back and watch them go into exile? He is unwilling to do so. If the Centuriate Assembly is held, will they still go into exile? Levi asked. Maybe they will stay, Sarabeo said with a wry smile. In order to let them stay and be tried, Levi was willing to give up the absolute advantage of the Citizens' Assembly, which shows how much he hates them, then sue them at the Centuriate Assembly. Levi said coldly, no problem, but we don't have an advantage at the Centuriate Assembly. Sarabeo said, I will talk to those rich people one by one later, and they will agree. Levi said, this is the best, Sejanus said with a smile. With Levi coming in person, he didn't believe that those knights and elders would dare to refuse Levi's face. You have to know that the Citizens' Assembly is basically in Levi's hands. If they really commit a crime, they will die if Levi tells them to. Unlimited judicial power is really terrible. How many guards have we recruited so far? Levi asked. A little more than 5,000. Gita said. He felt that he had not done his job well. Levi needed the support of the guards so urgently, but he could not recruit enough people. We must speed up the recruitment. This is our most important task next, Levi said. I know, Gita said. Master, today I found that Scipio and Gnaeus did not seem to help us with all their strength. I feel like they are perfunctory to us. At this time, a middle-aged man said. His name is Lucius Bellus. He is an excellent cavalryman. He once served as a cavalry centurion in the Alliance War. He has a steady personality, so he was appointed by Levi as his cavalry commander. Is it true? Levi asked. I'm not sure, I'm just guessing, Bellus said. Maybe you are too suspicious. Levi thought for a while and said, maybe. Bellus smiled and said that he really didn't understand the thoughts of those big men. While Levi and Sarabeo were discussing, Gutta and Sejanus were also racing against time to do remedial work. I've finished writing. Please sign it. After Sejanus finished writing a letter, he signed his name and asked Gutta to sign it as well. This was a letter to the Senate accusing Livius of possibly colluding with Suewe. Only by throwing dirty water on Livius desperately could they have a chance to get away with it. Gutta simply read it and signed his name. In addition to this letter, they also wrote some letters, not only to the consuls Cinna and Carpo, but also to their friends in Rome. They wanted to mobilize all their forces to bring Livius to the ground and make him never stand up again. Chapter 44 Prosecution. We should send more people to escort them, so that Livius won't send people to intercept them. Gutta said. You are right. I didn't think it through. Sejanus thought for a while and said. Gutta called some guards and asked them to prepare to send the letters to Rome overnight. Looking at the dark sky outside, Aulus asked, do you still need to send them so late? Of course, we are racing against time. This time the matter has really become a big deal, Gutta said with a serious face. Don't worry, with Consul Cinna standing up for us, he will definitely not dare to do anything to us, Sejanus said with a smile. But Gutta found that his smile was a bit far-fetched. He was definitely not as confident as he seemed. After Sejanus left, Gutta said to Aulus, I will remove your military status in the next few days. You should prepare and go to Egypt with your mother in a few days. If you don't receive my letter, never come back. Aulus looked regretful. Father, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. He also knew the seriousness of the matter. He was not Gutta, and Livius would never let him go. It doesn't matter. At most, I'll be exiled. It's not a life and death separation, Gutta said with a wry smile. Anyway, he was cheated more than once. At this time, he regretted it a little. Maybe he should have been stricter with Aulus before. The next morning, what happened in Levi Manor was already known to everyone. Gutta mobilized the garrison to encircle Levi. Some people said that it was to rob Levi's sugar formula. More than 400 people died in the battle between the two sides. All kinds of gossips were flying all over the sky, and the whole Capua was in panic. Sarabeo sat on a sedan chair carried by 8 slaves, and hundreds of guards sent by Levi guarded him around. In the Middle and Late Roman period, all kinds of dirty things happened in Rome. For example, the Gracchus brothers who carried out reforms were killed, and the very famous Cato the Younger once went to Mars Forum to compete, but was directly locked up in a small dark room by Pompey's people. The darkness of politics can be seen from this. For Sarabeo's safety, Levi sent a large number of guards to protect him. Sarabeo was very proud of this. This life of fine clothes and horses, with people following him closely, was exactly what he had dreamed of. Moreover, Livy promised him that as long as Sejanus was removed, this year's Capua administrator would belong to him, and no one could take it away. How could he not be ecstatic? This was his dream, so he decided to work for Livy wholeheartedly. After arriving at the Capua Senate, all the senators were waiting for him. Today he will make a speech on behalf of Livy, demanding the convening of the Centuria Assembly to conduct a public trial of Gutta and Sejanus. Looking at those complicated eyes, Sarah smiled slightly. Dear senators, yesterday in a manor belonging to a minor, an extremely evil thing happened. Our Capua administrator Sejanus and companion Governor Gutta coveted the property of this minor, and even sent troops to rob it, resulting in the death of more than 400 Roman citizens. As an excellent lawyer, Sarabeo's speech was ups and downs and sonorous. The elders listened to his words carefully, and soon they were surprised. Levi actually planned to prosecute Gutta and Sejanus at the Centuriate meeting, instead of the citizens' assembly where he had an absolute advantage. Why? Soon they understood the reason, and then took a breath. Levi really hated them to the core, and in order to lure them to stay for trial, he was willing to give up his advantage. Old Tullius rubbed his swollen head. He didn't want to see the scene from the bottom of his heart, because this represents the arrival of the Levi era. Both his life and the lives of those elders will be in Levi's hands. But he has no way to stop it. Now he has not much time left, and little Tullius has not grown up yet. He must make a super heavyweight ally for him during the power transition in Capua. Dear senators, the above is the will of me and my plaintiff, the respected knight Levi. Justice must be upheld and evil must be punished. We hope that the Senate will support our decision, convene a meeting of the Centurii, and conduct a public trial of this case. There was silence in the Senate for a while, and then a few applause broke out. Finally, the applause became louder and louder, resounding throughout the Senate. Sarabeo's mouth curled slightly. This is the taste of power. Even the senators have to bow their heads. I think Sarabeo is absolutely right. The impact of this matter is too bad. This matter must be publicly tried by the citizens of Capua. That's very well said. Sejanus and Gutta must be punished as they deserve. The senators praised one after another. After a long time, the speeches of the senators finally stopped. I don't know how many people are lamenting in their hearts that Levi's rise is unstoppable. Now I announce a vote on this matter. Old Tullius said, I support it, I support it, I support it. 85 votes in favor, 8 abstentions, 7 against. Finally, I declare that the Capua Senate supports the public trial of Capua Administrator Sejanus and Campania Governor at the Centuria Assembly, which will be held after the 16th. There is another thing. Some of our master's followers have asked for the convening of a citizens' assembly to sentence the military tribune Aulus, the military tribune motto, the military tribune, to death, and I hope that the 3 criminal officials can send people to temporarily detain them to prevent them from escaping. Sarabio continued, there was no public prosecutor system in ancient Rome. All matters were prosecuted by private individuals. Some people also regarded the prosecution of celebrities as a means of fame. Livius did not want to come forward in this matter himself, so he found a few followers to let them come forward to prosecute. No problem. I support this resolution. I support it. They were not surprised that Livius would accuse Aulus, but they did not expect that he would sue several other military tribunes as well. I have several cases here, involving the wife and relatives of the administrator, relatives of the governor of Campania, and some retainers, a total of 13 people. I hope to try them together in the citizen Grand Duke. Sarabio continued. 13 people. All the senators took a breath of cold air, and Levi once again used his unlimited judicial power. This is killing the whole family. All. Death penalty? A famous senator said in a trembling voice. Yes, Sarabio said lightly. This. Is it too much? Another senator said. I remember that your son seemed to be married to a relative of the administrator. Are you dissatisfied with our decision? Sarabio glanced at him and said, No. No, I just. The senator said in horror. Chapter 45 Ulpian. Let's vote. I'm in a hurry. Sarabio said arrogantly. I agree. Old Tullius said, I agree too. I agree. 86 votes in favor, 14 abstentions. I declare it passed, and the time is set for 3 market days later. 3 market days means 24 days later. The decision of the Senate spread to the whole of Capua at the fastest speed, and almost everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that Levi's counterattack would come so quickly and so sharply, and to sentence the 2 major military and political giants of Capua to death was simply unbelievable. When Aulus heard the news, he couldn't help laughing so hard that tears fell out. In order to prevent him from exile, Levi really had good intentions. Even the citizens' assembly with an absolute advantage gave up, which shows that he was determined to kill him. Looking at the somewhat crazy Gutta, Aulus understood that the incident was developing in the worst direction. Father, why don't we go together? Aulus said. You and your mother go first. I'll see the situation. Gutta sighed and said. Now his only concern is his son. It is better to escape first than to be detained and wait for death. Aulus burst into tears. From now on, he will wander the world with his mother. A charming lady scolded Aulus and Gutta, scolding them for bringing disaster to the family. Gutta endured it silently. The servants were busy loading the gifts that had been prepared long ago. It didn't take long for them to load. Let's go. If you are late, you can't leave. Gutta sighed and said. The lady stopped scolding and got on the car crying. Aulus and Gutta hugged each other affectionately, and then reluctantly got on another car. At this time, there was a commotion outside the gate of the admiral's mansion. What happened? Gutta said dissatisfiedly. At this time, a slave ran over in a panic. Master, it's not good. Many people have surrounded our admiral's mansion. What did you say? The admiral's mansion was surrounded, Gutta said in shock. He hurried to the gate. Aulus wanted to get off the car, but he stopped him. Now he was a suspect, so it was better not to show up. At this time, the guards outside the gate had withdrawn to the mansion. The gate was closed, and there were insults everywhere outside the gate. Punish the murderer severely. Murderer. Gutta is a robber. He robbed a child of the sugar formula. From time to time, stones and feces were thrown into the admiral's mansion, and the guards avoided them like snakes and scorpions. What's the situation? The Gutta people asked. Sir, there are thousands of Roman citizens outside. They are protesting against our actions yesterday, a centurion said cautiously. "This must be someone sent by Levi. He is really too much," Aulus said angrily. He was afraid that Aulus would run away. It was really a chain reaction. Unexpectedly, he was still a step slower in the end. He walked to the front of the gate and looked out through the crack of the door. He found that in addition to a large number of Roman citizens wearing ordinary clothes, they were old and young, and even some women, who should be civilians. Assholes. A bunch of assholes. Good accursed. No, Aulus must go, otherwise he can't go. Not long after, some soldiers came out escorting 2 carriages. "Get out of the way, get out of the way, don't hinder the admiral's office from performing its duties," a centurion said fiercely. "Hand over the suspect, hand over the suspect, Aulus." The civilians said one after another, and at the same time, a large number of stones were thrown at them. "Assholes, put up your shields." Turtle shell formation. The soldiers immediately put up their shields, held them in front of or behind themselves, surrounded the 2 carriages in the middle, and escorted the 2 carriages slowly forward. A large number of stones hit the shields, making a clanging sound, but it could not stop the team from moving forward. Outside the admiral's office, Levi looked at the admiral's office in the distance with hatred. This time he wanted to make them die without a burial place. He was furious when he thought that they didn't say anything and directly stabbed him with javelins. Cerebio looked at the team in the distance calmly, just struggling to death. "Blow the horn," Levi said to a soldier with a beast horn beside him. The soldier blew the horn quickly, and the melodious sound of the horn rang out. Soon, neat footsteps sounded around, and a large number of fully armed guards ran over here. "Stop them," Levi said calmly. "Raise your shields," said a senior centurion. A squadron has 2 centurions, one of which is a low-level centurion and 1 senior centurion. This time Levi transferred 4 centurions. Those guards immediately raised their shields, and their movements were uniform and pleasing to the eye. Forward, the 4 centurions marched towards the convoy in a neat pace. "Don't come over, I warn you, this is the admiral's team," the centurion shouted. "Beat them, remember not to use weapons," the senior centurion said viciously. The 4 centurions immediately began to accelerate and rushed towards the centurion. The 2 sides soon collided with each other, and then began to fight. At this time, a rapid trumpet sounded in the governor's palace. In the army, one trumpet means attack, and another one means retreat. The centurion's face changed, and he hurriedly said, "Escort the carriage and retreat." But it was not so easy to retreat at this time. Although the carriage was successfully withdrawn, they were all beaten black and blue, and then returned to the governor's palace in dismay. Gutta looked at all this with despair on his face. Could it be that the gods wanted to destroy their Gutta clan? "Has the executioner not arrived yet?" Levi said to Cerebio. "This one should be here soon," Cerebio said uncertainly. "The executioner is the 3 criminal officials. They are lower-level officials in Rome. Their duties are to accept denunciations, guard prisons, conduct investigations, be in charge of judicial police, and maintain order in the city." Ulpian had never thought that he was so unlucky that he had to deal with such a thing. He was asked to capture the son and wife of the admiral of Campesia. This was simply the end of his life. "Sir, I am really very ill. Can you find my 2 colleagues?" "Go find them," Ulpian said weakly while lying on the bed. His face was sallow, as if he had a serious illness. "Stop pretending to be sick here. Go quickly. This is an order from the Senate of Capua." "Do you dare to refuse it?" a centurion said. "Sir, I am really sick. If you don't believe me, you can find a doctor to see." But before he finished speaking, he was lifted up by 2 guards and dragged outside. Ulpian wailed in his heart. Why was it like this? Chapter 46. Cinna, can't he just be a nobody in peace? He didn't want to get involved in this fierce battle. At this time, some guards were already standing outside. They were all listless, like eggplants hit by frost, and they had completely lost their usual majesty. "Hurry up and follow me. Don't drag your feet. If you do this well, you will benefit from it," a centurion said. Ulpian looked helpless, as if his parents had died, and followed him forward. The journey that usually took more than 20 minutes took a full hour today, and this was the result of the centurion's repeated urging. At this time, he saw Levi surrounded by the crowd, which made his bones crisp. He took 2 steps at a time and showed a flattering smile on his face. "Respected Knight Levi, I didn't expect you to be here. If I had known you were here, I would have come here a long time ago." Levi glanced at Albion, and then said, "Did you see the Admiral's mansion? Capture Gutta and his son. As long as you do this, I will give you credit." Hearing this, Albion's face immediately fell. This is really too much to ask." "Don't be afraid. This is the power given to you by the Capua Senate." Levi patted his shoulder and said, "Well, then, I'll try it now." Albion showed a smile that was uglier than crying. He walked forward with the guards and patted the door of the Admiral's mansion. "Open the door quickly. I am Executioner Albion." Albion felt that his voice was trembling, but with so many people looking at him, he could only hold on. After a few minutes, there was no response from inside, and Albion breathed a sigh of relief. He trotted towards Levi, and faced Levi's murderous eyes, and said tremblingly, that they didn't open the door." "You stand at the door." Levi pointed at the gate of the Admiral's mansion and said. Albion looked aggrieved, but he could only stand at the door as Levi instructed. "Let them move," Levi said. At this moment, 20 guards carried a large log and rammed the gate fiercely. "I will return everything you gave me that day," Levi said. Albion was so scared that he jumped to the side. Bang! The gate of the Admiral's mansion was broken by the collision. "Who dares to break into the gate of the Admiral's mansion? Get out now!" The guards of the Admiral's mansion did not expect them to be so bold, and they shouted angrily. Albion was about to run away, but at this time 2 strong arms clamped from both sides and carried him into the Admiral's mansion. "Help!" Albion screamed in shock. "Shut up!" one of the guards holding him couldn't help but say. Albion had to shut his mouth. "By order of the Senate of Capua, arrest the suspect, the wife and son of Admiral Campania," someone said loudly. More and more people shouted, and at this time Gutta came out from inside. Seeing this, anger almost overwhelmed his reason. "What are you doing? Get out! Get out!" Gutta roared angrily. "By order of the Senate of Capua, arrest the suspect, the son and wife of Admiral Campania." A guard said it again, and then showed Gutta a document. Gutta grabbed the document and wanted to tear it into pieces, but finally held back. "Good. You are good. I will remember you." Gutta looked at everyone with an extremely cold look. Albion wanted to find a hole to get in. "This has nothing to do with me." Soon these guards broke in and caught Alice and Gutta's wife. The noblewoman cried and cursed, scratching and clawing at the soldier, but in the end she was still taken away. "Father," Alice said in horror, "I don't want to be caught. I don't want to die." "Don't worry. I promise you'll be out soon," Gutta said. Seeing Alice being captured by the crowd, Gutta burst into tears and chased after him. At this time he saw Levi in the distance. Levi smiled and bowed to him, but he was very angry. On this day, the residence of the governor and the administrator was breached, and more than a dozen dignitaries, knights and military tribunes of Capua were captured. Only one person escaped, which caused a sensation in the city. Rome, the residence of Archon Cinna. Cinna was correcting some documents sent from the military camp. He would go on an expedition to Greece in half a month, and now was the busiest time. Not far from him sat a pair of happy young men and women. The girl was his daughter Cornelia, and the boy was his newlywed son-in-law, the famous Gaius Julius Caesar, also known as Caesar the Great. Since the death of Marius, Cinna has always had a sense of insecurity. Marius had made great military achievements throughout his life and was extremely popular among the common people in Rome. He served as Roman consul 7 times, creating a miracle in Roman history. No one had ever been elected consul so many times. But now Marius is dead, and he died of old age after a large-scale massacre in Rome. Cinna had an urge to curse. In the past, there was a tall man to support the sky when it fell, and Marius was that tall man. When it comes to fighting, Marius is definitely a good hand, but now he is dead, and he has caused him a lot of trouble. In order to maintain his relationship with the common people, he deliberately betrothed his daughter to the young man in front of him, not only because Marius was his uncle, but also because one of Caesar's uncles proposed the famous Julius citizenship law. which granted all Italian freemen from the Rubicon River in the north to the Strait of Messina in the south the rights of citizens. So the Caesar family was very popular among the Roman civilians. Although it was a political marriage, seeing his daughter's sweet face, Cinna felt much better. At least she didn't marry a scumbag. What he didn't know was that if we only talk about cheating, there would definitely not be many people who dared to say that they were worse than Caesar in the future. At this time, a guard walked in. "My lord, there were a few soldiers from Capua outside the palace just now. They brought letters from Sejanus, the administrator of Capua, and Gutta, the governor of Campania, saying that someone colluded with Sulla to rebel." Hearing this, Cinna was furious. He was about to leave Italy, but he didn't expect that someone would dare to collude with Sulla. This was really outrageous. "Don't let them in," Cinna said in a deep voice. "As you command." Caesar stood up when he saw this. "Do you want me to leave first?" "No, just watch and learn more," Cinna said with a smile. Western nobles attach great importance to the cultivation of their offspring, and often teach them by example from a very young age. Chapter 47 Committee of 10. Caesar nodded and sat down on the side. Soon, a guard was brought up. "Who are you?" Cinna asked. "Your Excellency, I am the guard of Sejanus, the administrator of Capua. I am here to deliver a letter under the order of the administrator," the guard said. "Where is the letter?" The guard quickly handed over the letter. Cinna was furious after reading it. "How dare you kill so many Capua garrisons? It's simply unreasonable. Gutta is also a waste. So many people can't even break through a manor," Cinna said. "We didn't expect the ballista to be stopped by his guards, and a large number of Capua citizens were helping them. We had to give up in the end." The guard explained quickly. "A large number of Capua citizens are helping them? What's going on?" Cinna asked quickly. "Could it be that there are a large number of Sulla's sympathizers in Capua?" Cinna couldn't sit still when he thought of this. Those Capua citizens were hired by Livius, and they are not his supporters at all. The guard said quickly. "What does he do? How can he be so rich?" Sejanus said he recruited 2,000 guards. Cinna asked curiously. What he didn't know was that Gutta and Sejanus concealed a lot in the letter. They didn't dare to mention that Levi was going to recruit 2 legions of guards. Otherwise Cinna would have a deeper understanding of Levi's wealth and would realize that they were probably coveting Levi's wealth. He is the owner of a gladiator training school," the guard said, and then told the story about Levi. Seeing the guard's erratic eyes, not to mention Cinna, even Caesar felt that this was problematic. After listening to Levi's history of making a fortune, Cinna found that this person was a genius, at least in terms of making money. So he was the one who made the sugar. "I didn't expect it to be so profitable," Cinna said. "Some time ago, a tax farmer from Capua came to Rome to sell sugar. He sold a pound of sugar for 100 dinars. It was delicious when used to make bread and pastries." Cornelia said at this time, she liked to attend various banquets very much. The benefits of sugar had been spread at the banquets. 1 pound for 100 dinars. Cinna was really shocked. This was a price more expensive than silver, almost equivalent to a living silver mine. Whoever mastered the formula of sugar could earn a huge amount of dinars. No wonder Levi was so rich. Such a rich man actually colluded with Sulla. No, why would such a rich man collude with Sulla? Wouldn't it be better for him not to touch either side? Could it be that they coveted the wealth of sugar? Cinna's eyes suddenly became cold, and the ruthless eyes scared the guard. This was the Roman consul, who had killed dozens of senators and thousands of knights, the most powerful person in the whole of Rome. "Speak, what's going on?" Cinna said. It is true that the administrator discovered that he was colluding with Sulla, so he went to his manor to arrest him," the guard said with his neck stiff. "Really? In that case, you go back first. I will investigate it carefully, and naturally notify the Senate to investigate this matter." Cinna sneered. "Don't do that. This matter is extremely urgent and can't wait. Otherwise my chief will die," the guard said anxiously. "How can he die? Do they dare to send people to kill him and the governor of Campania?" Cinna sneered. "No. It's just..." The guard didn't know what to say. "If you don't want to tell the truth, get out of here quickly. If you weren't Sejanus's man, I would have killed you long ago." Cinna cursed. A soldier dared to play tricks with him. Did he really think that Cinna didn't dare to kill people? "Okay, I'll tell you. The guard finally told part of the truth. Are you saying that he plans to recruit guards from 2 legions? This time, not only Kina, but also Caesar and Cornelia were stunned. Yes, the commander said that he is likely to convene a citizens' assembly to put the 2 commanders on trial, so I hope you can save him quickly, the guard said. Kina finally realized the seriousness of the problem. 12,000 guards, plus their relatives and friends, can basically cover all aspects of Capua. In other words, as long as the trial is held, Sejanus will be dead. Why hide this? Kina asked. Because our commander coveted Levi's property, so, the guard remembered Sejanus' instructions before leaving, that he could admit his mistakes when necessary, but there was one thing he could never say, that is Levi's age. Asshole. They are all a bunch of assholes. Kina couldn't help cursing. I hope you can save the commander's life for the sake of his having served under you. This is what our commander said, the guard said. Kina was angry, but he couldn't bear to do anything when he remembered that Sejanus had been through life and death under his command. And after leaving Italy, what if there was a riot in the country? There are still many people who oppose him and Capo, and this man actually has 2 legions of guards, which is too dangerous and must be removed. Okay, I'll think of a way. Thank you, sir. In a high-end restaurant in Rome, military judges Liberius, Valens and Sarabio are dining together. Sarabio never thought that he would come to Rome in such an identity. In order to find out the truth about Rome and prevent things from developing in an uncontrollable direction, Levi sent Liberius and Sarabio to lead 300 guards to escort Scipio and Nias to Rome, and by the way, to arrange for the opening of a sugar shop in Rome. Sarabio was somewhat reluctant to come to Rome. He wanted to stay in Capua and give various exciting speeches for his position as administrator. But it was directly rejected by Levi. You think you can become an administrator by giving a few speeches? What a joke. Without me, you will never be an administrator in your life. After being scolded by Levi, Sarabio obediently rolled to Rome. Did you get any news today? Valens said. Scipio's butler told me that Cinna proposed to select 9 people from the senators to form a 10-member committee with Consul Carpo to jointly try the case. If nothing unexpected happens, his proposal should be passed, Sarabio said in a deep voice. Chapter 48 Reunion. Valens was slightly startled. How could this happen? Is it serious? It's serious, but it's not serious either. Sarabio smiled and said, you have to know that this month is July. All the senior officials of Rome will be born after this month. Many people will come to us for help. What should we do? Valens said, promote the reputation of the head of the family and show our strength. Whoever wants our support should put pressure on the Senate. Sarabio said confidently. As a lawyer, no one knows how the Roman system works better than him. As long as you make good use of the power in Levi's hands, this level is not difficult. Liberius and Valens thought about it, and it seemed to be true. Is this your idea? Liberius asked. No. It's the head of the family, Sarabio said with a twitch of his mouth. Sometimes he felt that Levi was not a child at all, and seemed to know the Roman system better than him. He proposed a strategic plan to win the war of public opinion in Rome and let the 300 guards act as public opinion guides, which made Sarabio deeply admire him. Master is amazing, Valens said with admiration. Sarabio agreed with this. It was amazing that he knew all this at such a young age. If Livius was willing to go into politics, he would definitely achieve amazing success. At this time, a man and a woman walked by their table. The man suddenly stopped and stared at Sarabio carefully. You are, Sarabio, the man said in surprise. Appius. Sarabio was a little panicked at first, but soon calmed down. He is not the same person as before. Now he is not afraid of anyone. It's been a long time, Sarabio. The man laughed. How many years have we not seen each other? It's been 10 years. 11 years. Sarabio looked at him deeply and said, Cassia, remember the poor fellow I told you about before? He is the poor fellow, Appius said proudly to the extremely beautiful woman. It is him. He is so poor that he has to cheat for food and drink. He is really a disgrace to the nobility. The woman said with contempt. I am really sorry, Sarabio. You know I always say what I mean and don't like to lie. You don't mind, do you? Appius smiled sarcastically. It doesn't matter, Appius, Cerebio said lightly. Valens and Liberius looked at each other. It seems that Cerebio is also a man with a story. What are you doing back in Rome this time? I remember you seemed to go to some remote place. Appius said, I am here to escort Scipio and Senator Nias back on behalf of someone, and do some small things by the way. Cerebio said, Scipio? Which Scipio? Appius asked. Besides that Scipio, who else could there be? Of course it's Lucius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, the Scipio who intends to be the consul. A faint smile appeared on Cerebio's face. This is impossible, Appius said in shock. Scipio was the top noble in Rome, even if their family was several levels lower than the Scipio family. How could this poor guy who couldn't even get enough food get involved with him? He was definitely lying. Yes, that's it. What's impossible? I'm living in Scipio's house now, but I think it's too inconvenient to live there, so I plan to move out. No matter how Scipio tries to keep me, it's useless. Cerebio began his pretentious journey. Valens and Liberius smiled at each other and shook their heads almost at the same time. This guy is really good at bragging. Appius and Cassia looked at each other. How could this be possible? The great Scipio would actually keep him? By the way, he seemed to have said that he represented a person. Could it be that the problem was with that person? Whose orders are you following? Appius asked. Livius, have you heard of me? This name seems familiar. Appius said, I know. It seems that the Senate is discussing it recently. At this time, Cassia said, is it that person? Appius took a breath and said, yes, but many rumors have misunderstood him. Livius is just a 16-year-old child, a knight of noble character, accusing a 16-year-old child of colluding with Sulla and then sending 5 battalions of soldiers to encircle and suppress him. Don't you think it is cruel to this child? They simply saw that the child was not deeply involved in the matter and wanted to rob the child of his property. Cerebio said passionately, a 16-year-old child? Appius and Cassia were both shocked. They didn't expect that the person who killed more than 400 Roman soldiers was just a child. This is big news. Yes, he is a genius. He has been determined to serve Rome since he was a child. He planned to join the army when he came of age. So he recruited a large number of guards. After learning that someone coveted his property, he urgently recruited 2 legions of guards, but the greedy Capua administrator and the Campanian admiral joined forces to attack his estate, and finally he was beaten. Cerebio said, hard to brag for Levi. Anyway, these are all facts. What did you say just now? 2 legions, Appius said in shock. Like a duck with its neck strangled. How is this possible? How can one person recruit 2 legions of guards? How much money would it cost? Yes, the wealth brought by sugar is far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Levi can use this wealth to maintain 2 legions of standing troops, which is why it attracts many people's covetousness. Cerebio said. Appius and Cassia both looked as if they had suddenly realized something. No wonder the Capua administrator and the admiral wanted to attack his estate. If it were them, they would do the same. But justice will always be served. Livius won the war, and the greedy people will be judged. And next month, Livius will organize about 30,000 Roman citizens to visit Rome. Cerebio dropped another big bomb. 30,000 Roman citizens. Appius was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. Yes, Livius's guards and their relatives and friends, Cerebio said with a smile, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Just looking at the expression of this guy who used to laugh at him, I have to say it feels good. Appius and Cassia looked at each other. This is definitely a force that may change the political situation in Rome. Whoever gets his support, I believe there is a great possibility that he will get the position of Grand Chancellor, Tribune of the People, Construction Officer, Treasurer, or Priest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Public Opinion War. I am so sorry. I don't know what your relationship with him is, Appius said respectfully. even with a hint of flattery in his tone. "I'm his retainer. The master said that he supports me to become the administrator of Capua and the treasury of Rome," Sarabio said proudly. "Retainers have always had a bad reputation in Rome, but if they can become administrators and treasuries, that reputation is nothing." "Congratulations," Appius said with envy. If he could become the treasury, he would be willing to do anything. The two sides reconnected, and Appius wanted to invite Sarabio to the party he organized, but was rejected by Sarabio. Not to mention that he was still angry before. He had a lot of things to do recently. Even if he attended a party, it would be the kind of party hosted by Scipio. His party style was too low. Appius felt extremely aggrieved about this, but he endured it. In the future, Sarabio may become a big man that they look up to. Maybe they will have to count on him for help. After Appius left, looking at Sarabio's smug expression, Liberius asked, "Did you have a grudge before?" "Not really, but almost," Sarabio said lightly. Seeing that Sarabio was unwilling to mention the past, Liberius did not ask any more questions. The most important thing now is to start a war of public opinion. We must tell the Roman people the ugly true face of Gutta and Sejanus. It's time for our guards to take action, Sarabio said. "Okay, let's do it," Liberius said. There are a lot of shops and taverns in a somewhat dirty street in the Estuarian district of Rome. Although it was dark, there were still a few taverns open. 3 big men came to the door of a tavern and walked in after just looking at the sign. As soon as they entered, a noisy sound came over them. This was a dark and damp little house. A tin chandelier hung from the ceiling. 4 wicks were burning in the lamp, emitting a faint light. There were some old tables in the house, and some rough men were sitting around the tables enjoying delicious food and cheap beer. Some were gambling with dice. Those who won shouted loudly, and those who lost cursed loudly. The tavern was very lively. The 3 big men chose a table and sat down. Soon a gentle and lovely female slave came over. 3 guests. "What do you need to eat? What good dishes do you have?" a big man with a beard asked in a foreign accent. Soon the female slave reported the name of the dish and the price. Hearing the price, the 3 big men's mouths twitched. Although they knew that the price in Rome was very expensive, hearing those prices still made people feel like they were being ripped off. But fortunately, this time it was public spending, so there was no need to worry about money. They ordered some food and some beer, and then started chatting. "Have you heard that more than 400 Roman citizens died in Capua?" a young man said with a roll of his eyes. "Yes, I just came from Capua 2 days ago, and the news has been going viral there for a long time," the bearded man said. The administrator of Capua and the governor of Campania gathered more than 3,000 people to attack a teenager's estate. But not only did they fail to take it down, but more than 400 people died. "It's really shameful." "It's actually a teenager?" the young man said very timely. "Yes, both his parents are dead, and he is only 16 years old this year." "I think it's really outrageous." The big man slammed the table hard, attracting many people to look over here. Those 2 dog officials saw that the child was easy to bully, and they were attracted by the child's huge wealth, so they actually sent troops to kill him. Fortunately, the gods blessed them and they failed. "Is that kid so powerful?" "Of course, he has more than 2,000 Roman citizens as guards, and he has to recruit 2 legions of guards," the big man said. "You are not lying, are you?" "Who can afford to support 2 legions of guards?" said a man at a nearby table. "Swear to the great Jupiter, if he doesn't plan to recruit 2 legions of guards, I will die a miserable death." The man seemed to be insulted and cursed. At that time, the Romans were very respectful of the gods, and no one dared to swear randomly, so everyone believed his words. "Where does he get so much money?" someone asked. "Selling sugar. This thing is very sweet, can be used to make soup, can be added to milk, and can also be used to make bread. It has so many uses. It sells for 30 denarii per pound, and it is selling like crazy now. Many foreigners come from far away to buy it," the man said. 30 denarii per pound. Many people were shocked. This was too expensive. "I heard that someone sold sugar in Rome a while ago, and sold it for 100 dinars per pound. Did he sell it?" "It was sold, and it was very popular. It's so profitable." Everyone was talking about it, and some people were tempted. hesitating whether to go to Capua to buy some sugar and bring it to Rome to sell. So sugar is very profitable. I heard that Levi can make at least 400,000 dinars a month, and at least 4.8 million a year. With so much money, let alone those two officials, even I want to rob it. If I get the formula of sugar, it will be 48 million in 10 years, and I won't even exchange it for a consul," the big man said with saliva flying. 48 million. Many people took a breath of cold air. How much money is this? I'm afraid that the richest man in Rome doesn't have so much money. Are you talking about the matter that Cinna proposed to form a 10-member committee to investigate? Someone asked at this time. Yes, that's it. The administrator of Capua was once a military tribune under Cinna. Do you think he can help him? The big man said. Didn't they say he was colluding with Sulla? Someone asked. Colluding with Sulla? A child without a father or mother, not yet an adult, earning millions of dinars a year, living a good life. Would you collude with Sulla? The big man looked at the man as if he were an idiot and said. The man lowered his head in shame. What he said made sense, and he was speechless. It's because he is a child who is easy to bully. I think it's really evil, the young man said. Everyone nodded. It was indeed true. And you don't know that the senators Scipio and Nias were there at the time, but they were detained by them. It's simply lawless. The big man continued. There is such a thing. Of course. The big man told everyone what happened at that time, and everyone was stunned. The same thing happened not only in various taverns, but also in restaurants and bathrooms, with the unremitting efforts of 300 guards. This matter spread in Rome at the fastest speed. Chapter 50 Competition. What did you say? Levi is just a 16-year-old kid. Cinna was completely dumbfounded. Yes, and both his parents died, and he has no brothers or sisters. Cinna's housekeeper said cautiously, it is said that his sugar can earn 4.8 million dinars a year. Sejanus and Gutta sent troops to surround his estate because of the money. Now the whole of Rome has heard about it. Sejanus, you bastard! Cinna roared angrily. Cinna had an urge to vomit blood. Sejanus really hurt him badly. You said that a child colluded with Sulla. Does anyone in the world believe it? No wonder other people looked at him strangely recently. It was probably the look of an idiot or a black-hearted official. No, this matter must be remedied. Cinna said. He couldn't let his reputation be ruined by Sejanus. He was still planning to serve as consul for a few more times. He couldn't compare to Marius 7 times, but he had to serve at least 3 or 4 times. So the next day, Cinna delivered a speech in the Senate severely accusing Sejanus and Gutta, and expressed his attitude. Of course, the investigation still needs to be investigated. The death of so many citizens is definitely a tragedy. How can we not investigate it thoroughly? In Levi's manner, more than 50 big men wearing only shorts stood neatly in front of Levi under the scorching sun. They had bronze skin, developed muscles, scars everywhere on their bodies, and their eyes flashed with the light of choosing people to devour. It was obvious at a glance that these were excellent gladiators. These are gladiators we selected from all over Italy. The lowest is the level of generals, and 2 of them are local champions. Cars said proudly. Because of the bet with Dio, Levi sent people to various places to buy excellent gladiators 10 days ago. As the Apollo festival approached, Levi finally remembered these people. So Cars gathered the gladiators he had bought. But Dio was imprisoned by him. Who would he compete with then? How strong are they? Levi asked. They are very strong. The weakest one should be a little stronger than her, Cars said. Levi glanced at her, who lowered his head in embarrassment. With the arrival of these gladiators, he also deliberately found a few to compete with, but they lost very badly, which also proved that the strength of the gladiators of the Levi family was really poor before. Not bad. Let them compete, rank them, and add the general, and decide who will compete in the Apollo festival. Levi said. Okay, head of the family, Cars said. Not long after, the general was also called over. With a height of 1.9 meters, he was also a standout among the gladiators. After more than 2 months, the general seemed more introverted and more threatening. Even the gladiators looked at him warily. Cars swung his whip hard and said loudly, "Lucky bastards, you have met a great and kind master. As long as the gladiators of the Levi family win 10 games, they can become free slaves. and then they can get a job in the family until they are 40 years old and can be completely free. Hearing this, the gladiators were all surprised to be able to become gladiators at the level of brave generals. They all fought their way out of the pile of dead bodies. It is precisely because of their superb strength that the slave owners are even more reluctant to give them freedom, because the profits they create are really amazing. If Levi had not paid a huge price, they would definitely not be willing to sell these cash cows. Although these gladiators have heard people here mention it, they did not expect that all this was true. How could they not cry with joy? Cars first gave them a bowl of chicken soup, asked them to train hard for the glory of the Levi family, and finally talked about the purpose of this trip. Next you will have a duel, which will determine your ranking in the family. Those who rank first will participate in the Apollo festival, and they will be free faster. Now I will announce your opponents in the first round. Hearing the word freedom, many gladiators' eyes lit up, and they were all eager to try. So then, under the arrangement of cars, they fought 2 by 2, of course, using wooden weapons. These gladiators are very strong. Yulia said, "It's just too expensive." "It doesn't matter, as long as we can win the Apollo game," Levi said. "Although Dio is gone, the Apollo festival should continue, and it would be nice to win the championship at that time." At this time, some people have already decided the winner, including the general and another gladiator. The general dodged the opponent's stab and chopped his arm with a sword. If it was an iron sword, the opponent's arm would fall off. Even so, the opponent cried out in pain, and the sword in his hand almost fell to the ground. The general was in a dominant position and kicked the gladiator flying with his shield. The gladiator fell to the ground. When he remembered, a wooden sword had already landed on his throat. The general wins. Kars said, "You are very strong. What's your name?" "My name is Tigu," the gladiator said. "You can call me General." The general said coolly, "Are you Gaul?" "No, Germanic." I didn't expect the general to be so powerful. He knocked down his opponent in a few moves. His opponent is a Roman general, who is very strong, Julia said. The strength of the gladiators in Rome is higher than that of other places. If he can get the title of general in Rome, then his strength is almost equivalent to the champion of some small cities. Not bad, Levi said. It seems that such a big body is not in vain. At this time, a guard came over. "Master, an urgent letter from Sarabio." Levi took the envelope, opened it and read it carefully. "How is the matter in Rome?" Julia asked. After reading it, Levi frowned slightly. "The Senate's 10-member committee has been basically settled, but Sulla found Sarabio and put forward conditions, asking me to let Sejanus go, otherwise Carpo will cause trouble for me," Levi said. After that, he handed the letter to Julia, who read it carefully. In the past few days, Sarabio wrote a letter every day, telling him everything that happened in Rome. Sarabio's appearance really caused a sensation in Rome. A large number of dignitaries came to make friends with him, especially those who were interested in official positions this year, and they were extremely eager to get Levi's support. Sarabio remembered Levi's instructions and easily settled the 10-member committee with a trump card in hand. It was a pity that Sulla was unwilling to give up Sejanus, which made Levi very angry. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.